The gun pressed cold against Elise's temple, but it wasn't the barrel that stopped her breath. It was the man holding it. Dante Voss didn't blink, didn't speak, just watched her like she was the first thing in years that made him feel something other than control. Blood pooled near her shoes, Marco's body still warm on the floor. She'd seen too much, knew too much, and somewhere between the trigger and his finger, a choice hung in the air that would either kill her tonight or chain her to him forever. If you want to know whether she survives the next 60 seconds, stay until the end. Drop a like, comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The city smelled like grease and exhaust, but Elise Carter had stopped noticing years ago. Chicago's South Side didn't offer much in the way of poetry, just cracked pavement, rust-streaked fire escapes, and the kind of cold that bit through cheap coats in October. She'd grown up here, survived here, and some nights she wasn't sure which one cost more. The Monarch sat on the edge of the financial district like a jewel dropped in mud. All black marble and gold fixtures, the kind of place where a single dinner cost more than Elise made in a month. She hated it, hated the way men in $1,000 suits looked through her like she was furniture, hated the way women with surgically perfect faces whispered behind their hands. But hatred didn't pay rent, and it sure as hell didn't cover her brother's medical bills. So she smiled, poured wine, took orders, and swallowed every word she wanted to spit back. Her shift started at 5. By 6, her feet already ached. The lunch crowd had been brutal. Some tech CEO's birthday party that ran 3 hours over and tipped like shit. Now the dinner service loomed, and Elise could feel the weight of it settling into her shoulders like a familiar bruise. "Table 12 needs water," Marianne hissed as she passed, her arms loaded with plates. Marianne was 50-something, sharp-eyed, and the only person in this place who'd bothered to learn Elise's name in the first 6 months. "And don't make eye contact, private party. Management says we're ghosts tonight." Elise grabbed a pitcher. "We're always ghosts." "Yeah, but tonight we're expensive ghosts. These people could buy the building and not blink." The private dining room sat behind frosted glass doors at the back of the restaurant. Elise had served in there maybe 3 times in 2 years, always for groups that made the hair on her neck stand up. Lawyers who laughed too loud, businessmen who touched her wrist when she poured. Once, a woman in diamonds who'd looked at Elise like she was calculating her resale value. She pushed through the doors with the pitcher balanced on one hand, chin up, face blank. The room went silent. 8 men sat around a table designed for 12. Tailored suits, watches that cost more than cars. The kind of stillness that came from men who knew violence intimately and wore it like cologne. At the head of the table, a man in his late 30s leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled, eyes dark and unreadable. Dante Voss. Elise had never met him, didn't need to. Everyone in Chicago knew the name, even if they pretended not to. He didn't run drugs on street corners or shake down liquor stores. That was small-time shit. Dante Voss owned the infrastructure, the supply lines, the politicians. Half the city moved because he allowed it to move. And now he was staring at her like she'd interrupted something sacred. She filled the first glass, then the second. Her hands didn't shake. She'd learned that trick young, how to keep your body steady even when your heart tried to climb out through your throat. "You're new," one of the men said. Slicked back hair, gold cufflinks, smile like a knife. "I've been here 2 years," Elise said evenly. 2 years and I've never seen you." He looked her up and down, slow and deliberate. "I'd remember." Elise set the pitcher down. "Anything else, gentlemen?" "Yeah." The man leaned forward. "Smile." She didn't. His grin widened. "I said smile, sweetheart." And I said, "Anything else?" Elise picked up the pitcher. "If not, You'll what?" He stood, crossed the space between them in 2 steps. "You'll walk away. You think you get to walk away from me?" Elise's pulse spiked, but she held her ground. She'd dealt with assholes before. Rich assholes, drunk assholes, assholes who thought a $100 tip bought them the right to grab her ass. This was just another one. Except the room was too quiet. Except none of the other men were laughing. "Vincent!" Dante's voice cut through the air like a blade through silk. "Sit down." Vincent didn't move. His hand hovered near Elise's wrist, close enough to feel the heat of it. I said sit. This time Vincent obeyed. Slowly, His eyes stayed on Elise the whole time, something ugly twisting behind them. Dante gestured to the empty seat beside him. You. Come here. Elise's stomach dropped. I'm working. And now you're sitting. He didn't raise his voice, said didn't need to. Unless you'd prefer Vincent finishes what he started. She walked. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to grab her coat and disappear into the cold. But her legs carried her forward anyway. Survival wasn't about instinct. It was about calculation. And right now the math said sit. She sat. Dante studied her for a long moment. Up close, he was even more unsettling. Sharp cheekbones, a scar cutting through one eyebrow, and eyes that looked like they'd seen the bottom of every pit humanity had to offer and decided to make it home. What's your name? He asked. Elise. Elise what? Carter. How old are you, Elise Carter? 26. And you've worked here 2 years? Yes. Do you like it? The question caught her off guard. She hesitated, and in that hesitation, something shifted in his expression, a flicker of interest maybe, or amusement. It pays the bills, she said carefully. That's not what I asked. Elise met his eyes, held them. No, I don't like it. One of the men snorted. Vincent muttered something under his breath, but Dante's mouth curved, just barely, into something that might have been a smile. Good, he said. Liars are useless. He gestured to the plates in front of him. Steak, rare. Roasted vegetables. A glass of red wine that probably cost more than her rent. Eat. I'm not hungry. I didn't ask if you were hungry. I told you to eat. Elise stared at him. Why? Because I want to see if you'll do it. It was a test. Everything with men like this was a test. Elise reached for the fork, cut a piece of steak, put it in her mouth, chewed, swallowed. Good girl, Vincent sneered. Elise set the fork down and turned to him. Say that again. The room went dead silent. Vincent blinked. What? You heard me. Say it again. He laughed, sharp and disbelieving. You've got balls, I'll give you that. Yeah, well, I need them in a room full of cowards. The air cracked. Vincent surged to his feet, chair screeching back. 2 other men moved with him, hands disappearing inside their jackets. Elise's heart slammed against her ribs, but she didn't flinch, didn't look away. Dante raised one hand. Everyone froze. He looked at Elise, really looked, like he was cataloging every scar, every bruise her life had left on her. Then he turned to Vincent. She's right, Dante said quietly. You are a coward. Vincent's face went red. Boss? Shut up. Sit down. If you open your mouth again tonight, I'll put a bullet in it. Vincent sat. Dante stood, buttoning his jacket with slow, deliberate movements. He nodded to Elise. Walk with me. It wasn't a request. Elise followed him out of the private room, through the main dining area where other diners pretended not to notice, and out into the cold October night. The city stretched out before them, lights and noise, and 1,000 lives grinding against each other in the dark. Dante lit a cigarette, offered her one. She shook her head. You should be scared of me, he said after a long silence. I am. Then why did you do that? Elise shoved her hands into her apron pockets. Because I'm tired. Of what? Of men like him thinking they own me. Dante exhaled smoke. Men like him do own you. You just don't want to admit it. Fuck you. He turned to face her, and for a moment she thought she'd gone too far. Thought she'd finally hit the line that would get her killed. But instead he laughed, low and rough, like he'd forgotten how. What's your brother's name? He asked. Elise went cold. What? Your brother, the one with the medical bills. What's his name? Her throat closed. How do you... I know everything about everyone who works in my city. His name. Owen. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. His name is Owen. What's wrong with him? Leukemia. Dante nodded slowly. Flicked ash onto the pavement. How much do you need? I don't... How much? 200,000, maybe more. I don't know. Elise's hands shook. Why are you asking me this? Because tomorrow, You're going to quit your job here. Her stomach dropped. What? You're going to quit, Dante repeated. And you're going to come work for me. Doing what? Whatever I tell you to. Elise stepped back. I'll pay for Owen's treatment, all of it. Best doctors, best hospital. He'll have a chance. In exchange for what? Dante dropped the cigarette, crushed it under his heel. You. The word hung between them like a noose. Elise shook her head. I'm not a whore. I didn't say you were. His voice was calm, patient. I said you're mine. There's a difference. No, there isn't. Then let your brother die. Dante turned toward the black car idling at the curb. It's your choice. He was halfway to the car when Elise heard herself speak. Wait. He stopped. If I do this, she said, hating every word, Owen gets the treatment first. Before I do anything for you. Dante looked back over his shoulder. Deal. And I want it in writing. You don't trust me? I don't trust anyone. That almost smile again. Smart. My lawyer will have the papers ready by noon tomorrow. Be at this address at 1. He pulled a card from his pocket, held it out. Don't be late. Elise took the card. Her hands were shaking now, and she couldn't stop them. Dante got into the car. The door closed. The engine purred to life. And just like that, he was gone. Elise stood alone on the sidewalk, staring at the card in her hand. An address in the financial district, penthouse level. She thought about Owen. About the way he smiled even when the chemo made him so sick he couldn't stand. About the collection notices piling up on her kitchen table. About the fact that she'd already sold everything she owned and it still wasn't enough. She thought about Dante's eyes, the way he'd looked at her like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. She thought about the gun she'd seen under Vincent's jacket, and she realized, with a sick clarity, that she'd just traded one kind of cage for another. The next morning, Elise walked into the hospital with an envelope full of cash. $20,000. Down payment, the lawyer had called it. Proof of good faith. Owen was asleep when she arrived, his skin pale and waxy under the fluorescent lights. 16 years old, and he looked like a ghost. Elise sat beside his bed and held his hand until the doctor came in. Miss Carter. Dr. Reyes was a small woman with kind eyes and tired shoulders. I wasn't expecting you today. I need to talk to you about Owen's treatment. I understand this is difficult, but we've discussed the options. What if money wasn't an issue? Dr. Reyes paused. I'm sorry. Elise set the envelope on the desk. What if I could pay for everything? The trial drugs, the specialists, all of it. The doctor opened the envelope. Her eyes went wide. Where did you get this? Does it matter? Elise, can you save him or not? A long silence, then we can try. Then try. By the time Elise left the hospital, it was nearly noon. She went home, showered, changed into the only professional outfit she owned, black slacks and a white blouse that had seen better days, and stared at herself in the mirror. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. You're stronger than you think, baby. Don't ever let them make you small. Her mother had died believing that. Elise wished she could. At 12:45, she caught the train downtown. The address on Dante's card led to a building made of glass and steel, all sharp angles and reflective surfaces. The kind of place where people like her didn't exist. Security stopped her at the door. I have an appointment, she said, holding up the card. The guard looked at the card, looked at her, picked up a phone. 30 seconds later, he stepped aside. Top floor, elevator on the right. The elevator moved so smoothly, Elise barely felt it. When the doors opened, she stepped into a hallway that smelled like leather and expensive cologne. A woman in a gray suit waited by a set of double doors. Miss Carter, this way. The office beyond was exactly what Elise expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, dark wood furniture, shelves lined with books that probably cost more than her car. Dante sat behind a desk, reading something on a tablet. He didn't look up. Sit. Elise sat. He finished reading, set the tablet aside, studied her with that same unnerving focus. You came, he said. You paid. Fair enough. He slid a folder across the desk. Your contract. Read it. Elise opened the folder. Legal jargon filled the pages. Employment terms, confidentiality clauses, compensation structure. Her eyes caught on one section. Employee agrees to be available at all times for any task deemed necessary by employer, she read aloud. What does that mean? It means what it says. That's not an answer. Dante leaned back in his chair. You'll live in one of my properties. You'll attend events with me. You'll do what I tell you to do when I tell you to do it. In exchange, your brother gets the best care money can buy, and you get paid more in a month than you made in a year slinging drinks. And if I say no, then we tear up the contract and you walk out of here. Owen goes back on the public system. You go back to the Monarch. And we never speak again. Elise's hands tightened on the folder. Why me? Because you're not afraid to look me in the eye. Plenty of people aren't afraid of you. No. Dante's voice went cold. Plenty of people pretend they're not afraid of me. You're different. How? You mean it? Elise stared at the contract, at the signatures waiting at the bottom, at the life she was about to step into. She thought about Owen. She picked up the pen, signed. Dante took the folder, glanced at her signature, nodded once. Good. You start tonight. Tessie. The apartment Dante gave her was in a building 3 blocks from his office. 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, a kitchen bigger than her old living room. It was beautiful. It was a cage. Elise stood at the window, watching the city lights flicker on as the sun set. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Car picks you up at 8. Wear black. D. She didn't own anything expensive. The best she could do was a black dress she'd bought at a thrift store for her mother's funeral. It fit well enough. She put on the only pair of heels she owned and felt ridiculous. The car arrived exactly at 8. A driver in a dark suit opened the door without a word. Elise slid into the back seat and tried not to think about how soft the leather was. They drove through downtown, past neighborhoods Elise recognized, then into areas she'd only seen on TV. Massive estates, gates with security cameras, driveways longer than city blocks. The car stopped in front of a mansion, not a house. A mansion, stone and ivy and windows glowing gold. The driver opened her door. Mr. Voss is inside. Elise walked up the steps on shaking legs. The front door opened before she could knock. A woman in her 60s, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, looked her up and down. You must be Elise. Yes. I'm Margaret. I manage Mr. Voss's household. He's in the study. Follow me. The inside of the house was even more intimidating than the outside. Marble floors, oil paintings, a chandelier that probably weighed more than Elise. Margaret led her down a hallway and knocked on a heavy wooden door. Come in, Dante's voice called. The study was smaller than his office, but no less imposing. Dante stood by a fireplace, drink in hand, wearing a suit that probably cost more than 3 months of Elise's old salary. You're on time, he said. Good. Margaret left, closing the door behind her. Dante gestured to a chair. Sit. Elise sat. He studied her for a moment, then set his drink down. Do you know why you're here? You said you had a job for me. I do. But first I need to know if you understand what you've agreed to. I signed a contract. Contracts are paper. I'm asking if you understand the reality. Elise's jaw tightened. I'm not stupid. I didn't say you were, but you're naive if you think this is just a job. Dante moved closer, and Elise fought the urge to stand, to run. You work for me now. That means you're part of my world, and my world doesn't forgive mistakes. Then don't make me make any. He almost smiled. You've got nerve, I'll give you that. Is that why you hired me? For my nerve? I hired you because you're useful. Whether you stay useful depends on how quickly you learn. Learn what? When to speak, when to shut up, when to trust me. He paused. And when to be afraid. Elise stood. I'm not going to be your pet. I never said you were. Then what am I? Dante looked at her for a long time. Insurance. Against what? People I don't trust. Before Elise could respond, the door burst open. Vincent stormed in, face flushed, eyes wild. We've got a problem. Dante's expression didn't change. I'm busy. Marco's dead. The air went cold. Dante turned slowly. What? Shot. 20 minutes ago. We found him in the warehouse on 5th. Who? We don't know, but whoever did it took the shipment. Dante's jaw tightened. All of it? Every goddamn crate. Elise stood frozen as the two men stared at each other. She didn't understand half of what they were saying, but she understood enough. Someone had crossed Dante. Someone had killed one of his men and stolen from him. And judging by the look on Vincent's face, people were about to die for it. Dante grabbed his coat. Get the car. Vincent nodded and disappeared. Dante turned to Elise. Stay here. Margaret will take care of you. Where are you going? To fix a problem. What kind of problem? He stopped at the door, looked back. The kind that bleeds. And then he was gone. Elise stood alone in the study, her heart pounding, her mind racing. She'd been in Dante's world for less than 12 hours, and already she could feel it closing around her like a fist. Margaret appeared in the doorway. Come with me, dear. I'll show you to your room. Elise followed in a daze. The room was on the second floor overlooking the gardens. It was bigger than her entire old apartment. A 4-poster bed, a bathroom with a tub the size of a small pool, windows that looked out over the city. Mr. Voss wants you comfortable, Margaret said. If you need anything, just press the button by the bed. When will he be back? When he's finished. Finished with what? Margaret gave her a sad smile. You'll learn not to ask questions like that. She left. Elise locked the door and sat on the edge of the bed, her hands shaking. She pulled out her phone and texted Owen's nurse. How is he? The reply came a minute later. Stable. Starting new treatment tomorrow. Doctor says it's promising. Elise closed her eyes. Promising. That was more than she'd had in months. She thought about Dante's face when Vincent said Marco was dead. Thought about the coldness in his eyes. She thought about the gun she'd seen under Vincent's jacket last night, and she realized, with a clarity that made her stomach turn, that she'd just stepped into a war. Dante came back at 3 a.m. Elise wasn't asleep. Couldn't sleep. She heard the cars pull up, heard voices in the hallway, heard footsteps on the stairs. Then a knock on her door. She opened it. Dante stood there, suit jacket gone, shirt stained with something dark. Blood, maybe. His face was unreadable. Get dressed, he said. Why? Because I need you to do something for me. Now? Yes. Elise grabbed a sweater and followed him downstairs. The house was full of men, hard-faced, armed, moving with the kind of precision that came from military training or something worse. They barely glanced at her as she passed. Dante led her to a black SUV idling in the driveway. Get in. She got in. They drove in silence through empty streets, the city a blur of lights and shadows. Elise didn't ask where they were going, didn't ask what he needed her to do. She was learning. They stopped at a warehouse on the edge of the industrial district, the kind of place where people went to disappear. Dante opened her door. Come with me. Inside the warehouse was cavernous and cold. Metal beams stretched overhead. The floor was concrete stained with oil and rust. And in the center of the room, tied to a chair, was a man Elise had never seen before. He was young, maybe 30, with a split lip and a black eye. Blood dripped from his nose. He looked up as they approached, and Elise saw terror in his eyes. Dante stopped a few feet away. This is Kyle. Kyle works for Victor Hale. The name meant nothing to Elise. Kyle was supposed to deliver a shipment to me tonight. Instead, he delivered it to Victor. And now Marco is dead. Kyle shook his head frantically. I swear, I didn't know. Shut up. Dante's voice was calm, almost gentle. Elise, come here. Elise's legs moved on their own. Dante pulled a gun from his waistband, held it out to her. Shoot him. Her blood went cold. What? I said shoot him. I'm not... You signed a contract. You agreed to do what I tell you to do, so do it. Elise stared at the gun, at Kyle's terrified face, at Dante's empty eyes. No. Silence. Dante tilted his head. No? I won't kill someone for you. Even if it saves your brother. Owen's treatment is paid for. The contract says you do what I tell you. If you refuse, it's void. Owen goes back to public care. You go back to nothing. Dante's voice didn't rise, didn't need to. So I'll ask you again, shoot him. Elise's hands shook. Why? Why are you doing this? Because I need to know if you'll break. And if I do, then you're useless to me. Kyle sobbed. Please, please, I have a daughter. Dante pressed the gun into Elise's hand. Choose. Elise looked at the gun, at Kyle, at Dante. She thought about Owen, about the way he'd looked at her the last time she visited, about the hope in his eyes when she said they had a chance. She thought about her mother, about the promise she'd made at her grave. She thought about the woman she'd been 12 hours ago, and she realized that woman was already dead. Elise raised the gun. Kyle screamed, and somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. The gun was heavier than Elise expected. Cold metal pressed against her palm, the grip textured and foreign. Her finger hovered over the trigger, trembling so badly she thought everyone in the warehouse could see it. Kyle's sobs filled the space, raw, animal sounds that scraped against her skull. Dante stood beside her, close enough that she could smell gunpowder and expensive cologne mixed with something copper. Blood, probably. His breathing was steady, calm, like this was just another Tuesday night. Choose, he said again. Elise's vision blurred. The warehouse walls seemed to press inward, the overhead lights too bright, the concrete floor tilting beneath her feet. She could hear her own heartbeat, fast, erratic, drowning out everything else. Kyle's voice cracked. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know they were going to kill anyone. Shut up, Dante said without looking at him. Elise's hands shook harder. The gun wavered. She tried to steady it, tried to remember how she'd seen it done in movies, feet apart, arms straight, breathe. But her body wouldn't cooperate. Her muscles locked. Her lungs forgot how to pull air. I can't, she whispered. Dante's hand closed over hers. Not gentle, firm. He guided the gun down, away from Kyle, and took it from her fingers. The relief that flooded through her was so intense she nearly collapsed. Then Dante raised the gun and shot Kyle in the head. The sound cracked through the warehouse like thunder. Kyle's body jerked once, then went still. Blood pooled beneath the chair, spreading across the concrete in slow, dark rivers. Elise stumbled backward, her stomach heaved. She bent over and vomited onto the floor, her whole body shaking, bile burning her throat. Dante holstered the gun. Vincent, clean this up. Vincent appeared from somewhere in the shadows, two other men with him. They moved with practiced efficiency, untying the body, dragging it toward a tarp already spread in the corner, like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Dante grabbed Elise's arm. Come on. She pulled away. Don't touch me. We need to leave. Now. You killed him. Yes. He had a daughter. He worked for a man who killed Marco, who stole from me, who would have killed you if he'd gotten the chance. Dante's voice was flat, empty. This is the world you're in now. Either you accept it or you get out. Elise wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. Her whole body shook. I want out. No, you don't. Yes, You want Owen to live. That's what you want. Everything else is just noise. She hated him. Hated the way he looked at her like he could see straight through her skin, straight into the ugliest parts of her. Hated that he was right. Dante started toward the exit. Car's outside. You can come with me or you can walk home. Your choice. Elise looked at Kyle's body one more time, at the blood still spreading across the floor, at Vincent and his men working like this was just another job. She followed Dante. The drive back was silent. Elise pressed herself against the car door as far from Dante as the back seat would allow. Her hands still shook. She could still hear the gunshot echoing in her head, could still see the way Kyle's body had jerked. Dante stared out the window, his face unreadable in the passing streetlights. When they pulled up to the mansion, Elise was out of the car before it fully stopped. She stumbled up the steps, through the front door, past Margaret, who called after her with concern in her voice. She made it to her room, locked the door, and collapsed on the bathroom floor. The shaking wouldn't stop. Her teeth chattered. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps that sounded like someone else's. A knock on the door. Go away, she managed. It's Margaret, dear. I brought tea. I don't want tea. I'm leaving it outside the door. And some crackers. You should eat something. Footsteps retreated down the hallway. Elise sat on the cold tile until the shaking finally subsided. Then she dragged herself into the shower and stood under water so hot it turned her skin red. She scrubbed until her arms ached, trying to wash away the warehouse, the blood, the sound of that gunshot. It didn't work. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a towel that probably cost more than her old monthly rent, she found the tea and crackers outside her door. The tea was still warm. She drank it sitting on the bed, staring at nothing. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. My office. Don't be late. D. Elise threw the phone across the room. Des. She didn't sleep, just lay in the dark, watching the ceiling, replaying everything over and over. By the time dawn broke, she'd made a decision. She was going to break the contract. Fuck the money. Fuck Dante. She'd find another way to save Owen. There had to be another way. At 9:30, she got dressed in jeans and a sweater, her own clothes, not anything Dante had provided, and headed downstairs. Margaret was in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. Good morning, dear. Did you sleep well? No. Elise grabbed an apple from the fruit bowl. I need to see Dante. He's expecting you at 10. Now. Margaret studied her for a moment, then nodded. He's in the study. Elise found him exactly where she expected, standing by the fireplace, reading something on his tablet. He looked up when she entered, but didn't speak. I'm done, Elise said. Dante set the tablet down. With what? This. All of it. I want out of the contract. No. I didn't ask. I'm telling you, and I'm telling you no. Dante's voice was calm, patient, like he was explaining something to a child. You signed a contract. You took my money. You don't get to walk away just because you got squeamish. You made me watch you kill someone. I gave you a choice. You chose not to pull the trigger. That was the right choice, by the way. Elise stopped. What? If you'd shot him, I would have known you were weak. Desperate people do desperate things, but they break easy. You refused. That tells me you've got a spine. This is insane. This is reality. Dante moved closer. You think you can go back to your old life? Back to pouring drinks and scraping by? You think Owen's treatment just keeps going if you leave? You said, I said I'd pay for it if you worked for me. You stop working, the money stops. Simple as that. Elise's hands clenched into fists. You're a monster. Yes, but I'm a monster who keeps his word. As long as you're useful to me, Owen lives. You walk away, he dies. That's the deal. I could go to the police. Dante smiled, actually smiled. And tell them what? That you witnessed a murder? That you were there when I shot a man who stole from me? You think they'll protect you? You think you'll make it to trial? He was right. She knew he was right. The police wouldn't help her. They'd either be on Dante's payroll or too scared to touch him. And even if they weren't, she'd be dead before she could testify. Elise sank into a chair, the fight draining out of her. I hate you. I know. Dante returned to his tablet. 10 o'clock. My office downtown. Wear something professional. We have a meeting. What kind of meeting? The kind where you smile and keep your mouth shut. Yeah. The office building looked different in daylight, less imposing somehow. Just glass and steel and the usual flow of people in business attire, clutching coffee cups and staring at their phones. Elise rode the elevator to the top floor in silence. The same woman in the gray suit met her at the doors. Miss Carter, right on time. Mr. Voss is with a client. You can wait in the conference room. The conference room was all windows and leather chairs. Elise sat at the far end of the table and tried not to think about last night. Tried not to see Kyle's face every time she closed her eyes. The door opened. Dante entered, followed by two men Elise didn't recognize. One was older, silver-haired, wearing a suit that screamed money and power. The other was younger, maybe 40, with sharp features and eyes that cataloged everything. Gentlemen, Dante said, this is Elise Carter. Elise, this is Senator Bradford and his chief of staff, Michael Chen. A senator. Elise kept her face neutral and stood to shake hands. Pleasure, Bradford said, his smile polished and empty. They sat. Dante at the head of the table, Bradford and Chen on one side, Elise on the other, She felt like she was on display. "Thank you for making time," Bradford said. "I know you're busy." "I'm always busy," Dante replied. "What do you need?" "There's a vote coming up. Infrastructure bill. It's going to pass, but the allocation is still being debated. And you want to make sure certain projects get funded." "Certain projects that would benefit both of us." "Yes." Dante leaned back in his chair. "How much?" 30 million in federal contracts. I make sure they go to your construction companies. You make sure I have the campaign funds to keep my seat next year." "Standard arrangement, with one caveat." Bradford glanced at Chen, who pulled a folder from his briefcase. "There's been some noise lately, journalists asking questions about where my donations come from. I need to clean up my image, distance myself from anything that could be considered controversial." Dante's expression didn't change. "You mean me?" "Publicly, yes. Privately, we continue as we have, but I need plausible deniability, no direct contact, no paper trails." "That's what Elise is for." Elise's stomach dropped. Bradford looked at her with renewed interest. "She'll be our liaison? She'll handle all communication between your office and mine. Anything you need, you go through her. Anything I need, I send her to you. As far as anyone knows, she's just a consultant, an advisor. Nothing connects her to me beyond a professional relationship." "And you trust her?" "Completely." The lie was so smooth, Elise almost believed it herself. Bradford smiled. "Excellent. Michael will set up the first meeting for next week. We'll need to go over the project details, make sure everything's aligned." "Looking forward to it," Elise heard herself say. The meeting wrapped up quickly after that. Handshakes all around. Bradford and Chen left, taking their polished corruption with them. Dante waited until the door closed. "You did well." "I didn't do anything." "Exactly. You kept quiet and let them assume you were on board. That's all I needed." Elise stood. "You're using me to launder your criminal connections through a senator. I'm using you to maintain a business relationship that benefits everyone involved." "That's the same thing." "Maybe, but it's the thing that keeps Owen alive." Dante walked to the window, hands in his pockets. "You think the world runs on honesty and goodwill? It doesn't. It runs on deals like this. Money for access, access for power, power for more money. I didn't invent the system, Elise. I just learned how to work it." "That doesn't make it right." "Right and wrong are luxuries for people who don't have to choose between survival and morality. You made your choice last night when you decided to stay." Elise wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was wrong, that there was always another way. But the words stuck in her throat because deep down, she knew the truth. She'd already chosen. The moment she signed that contract, the moment she took his money for Owen's treatment. Everything else was just pretending she still had a way out. Over the next 2 weeks, Elise learned the architecture of Dante's empire. It wasn't loud or obvious, no drug corners or violent shakedowns. It was quiet, sophisticated, woven into the fabric of the city so deeply that pulling one thread would unravel everything. Construction companies that won every major contract, logistics firms that controlled shipping routes, real estate developments that displaced neighborhoods and made millions. And beneath it all, money flowing through shell corporations and offshore accounts, washing itself clean before surfacing as legitimate business. Elise became the face of it, the messenger, the go-between. She met with Bradford's chief of staff 3 times, coordinating project timelines and payment schedules. She sat in on conference calls with contractors who knew exactly what they were building, fronts for money laundering, warehouses for illegal goods, and discussed blueprints like they were discussing the weather. She attended dinners where politicians and business leaders pretended Dante was just another entrepreneur, not a man who'd built his fortune on violence and fear. And through it all, she smiled, nodded, played her part. At night, she went back to the mansion and tried not to think about what she'd become. Owen's treatment was working. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. He'd started gaining weight again. His color was better. When Elise visited, he actually smiled. "You look tired," he said one afternoon, hooked up to an IV that dripped poison into his veins to kill the poison in his blood. "I'm fine." "You're a terrible liar." Owen reached for her hand. His skin was warm, alive. "What's going on? You get a new job or something?" "Something like that." "Must pay well. The nurses told me about the new treatment plan, said it's the best available." "Yeah. How'd you afford it?" Elise looked at her baby brother, 16 years old, fighting for his life, still worried about her. Don't worry about it. I said don't worry about it. She squeezed his hand. You just focus on getting better, okay? That's all I need you to do. Owen studied her face for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay. She stayed until visiting hours ended, then drove back to the mansion in the car Dante had assigned her. A driver, a car, a credit card with no limit. All the trappings of a life she'd never wanted. Margaret met her at the door. Mr. Voss wants to see you. He's in the study. Of course he did. Dante was on the phone when she entered, speaking in rapid Italian to someone who sounded angry. He held up one finger, wait, and continued the conversation. Elise caught words she recognized. Money, shipment, problem. He hung up and poured himself a drink. Want one? No. How's Owen? Better. Good. Dante took a sip. We have a situation. What kind of situation? The kind that requires your particular skills. Elise's jaw tightened. Which are? Not being me. He set the glass down. Victor Hale is throwing a party tomorrow night. Charity gala. Very public. Very legitimate. I need someone inside. Why? Because Marco's death wasn't random. Victor's been making moves, poaching my distributors, undercutting my prices. He's trying to start a war, and I need to know how far along his plans are. So send Vincent, or one of your other guys. Victor knows my guys. He doesn't know you. As far as anyone's aware, you're just my consultant. You go to the party, make conversation, keep your ears open. Find out what you can. I'm not a spy. You are now. Dante pulled an envelope from his desk. Invitation, +1. You'll take Michael Chen, gives you a legitimate reason to be there and makes you look connected. Bradford's office already coordinated it. Elise took the envelope. Inside was a heavy cream card embossed with gold lettering. Victor Hale cordially invites you to the annual Children's Hope Foundation Gala. The irony made her sick. What am I looking for? Anything useful. Who he's talking to, what deals he's making, whether he mentions Marco or the shipment. Dante met her eyes. And if you see anything that looks like evidence, documents, flash drives, anything, I need you to get it. You want me to steal from him. I want you to do your job. The gala was held at the Riverside Hotel, a massive gilded hall full of Chicago's elite, pretending they cared about sick children. Elise wore a dress Dante had sent over. Black, elegant, expensive enough to fit in, but not so expensive she'd stand out. Michael Chen picked her up at 7. Nervous? He asked as they walked up the red carpet. Should I be? Victor's not someone to underestimate. He's smart, careful. If he suspects you're working for Dante, things will get complicated. Then I won't give him a reason to suspect. Inside, the hall glittered. Crystal chandeliers, string quartet, waiters in white jackets carrying champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Elise accepted a glass and tried to look like she belonged. Victor Hale stood near the center of the room, surrounded by admirers. He was tall, silver-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people made in a year. Handsome in the way powerful men often were, not because of his features, but because of the authority he radiated. That's him, Chen murmured. I know. They circulated, made small talk. Chen introduced her to a few people, donors, board members, politicians. Elise smiled and played her part, all while watching Victor. Around 9, she saw her opportunity. Victor stepped away from his group and headed toward a hallway marked private. Elise excused herself and followed at a distance. The hallway led to a series of offices. Victor entered one and closed the door. Elise walked past, casual, like she was looking for the bathroom. She caught a glimpse through the window, Victor on the phone, his face hard. She kept walking until she found an empty office, slipped inside, closed the door. Her heart pounded. This was insane. She was supposed to gather information, not break into offices like some kind of thief. But Dante's voice echoed in her head. Do your job. She pulled out her phone and texted Chen. Need a distraction. Something to pull security's attention. The reply came 30 seconds later. Give me 2 minutes. Elise counted. At exactly 2 minutes, a fire alarm blared through the building. People rushed towards the exits. Voices shouted. Security moved to manage the crowd. Elise slipped out of the empty office and into Victor's. The desk was clean. Too clean. She opened drawers. Nothing. Checked the filing cabinets. Locked. Then she saw it. A briefcase on the side table. Unlocked. Inside were files, contracts, financial statements, and a flash drive. Elise grabbed the drive and shoved it in her purse just as footsteps echoed in the hallway. She was out the door and blending into the evacuation crowd before anyone noticed. Outside, Chen found her. "You good?" "Yeah." Her hands shook. "I'm good." "Let's get out of here." They left before the all-clear sounded. A mess. Dante was waiting when Elise got back to the mansion. He took the flash drive without a word and disappeared into his office. 20 minutes later, he emerged, his face dark. "What's on it?" Elise asked. "Everything." Dante's voice was tight, controlled. "Names, routes, payoffs, Victor's entire trafficking network." "Trafficking what?" "People." The word hit her like a fist. "What?" "Victor runs girls, young ones, brings them in from Eastern Europe, Asia, South America, sells them to buyers across the country." Dante's jaw clenched. "Marco found out about it. That's why Victor had him killed." Elise sat down heavily. "We need to go to the police." "The police can't help. This is human trafficking. They have to, but half the names on this list are cops, judges, federal agents. Victor owns them." Dante looked at her. "If we go to the police, they'll bury it, and then they'll bury us." "So what do? We use it. Victor wants a war, I'll give him one." Before Elise could respond, the door burst open. Vincent stumbled in, blood streaming from his shoulder. Two other men half carried him, both armed, both looking like they'd been through hell. "What happened?" Dante demanded. "Ambush. Victor's guys hit the warehouse on 18th, killed 3 of ours. Burned the whole fucking place." Dante's expression went cold. "How many of them?" 8, maybe 10. They knew we'd be there. Someone talked." "Who?" Vincent's eyes slid to Elise. "Maybe you should ask your new girl." The temperature in the room dropped. Elise stood. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Means you show up and suddenly Victor knows our every move. You go to his party and the next day we get hit. That's a hell of a coincidence." "Vincent!" Dante's voice cut through the tension. "Shut your mouth. Boss, I'm just saying. And I'm telling you to shut up before I put a bullet in your other shoulder." Vincent glared at Elise but said nothing. Dante turned to the other men. "Get him to the doctor. Then sweep the warehouse. Find out how they knew." The men left, Vincent still shooting looks at Elise over his shoulder. When they were alone, Dante poured himself a drink. "Don't take it personally. Vincent doesn't trust anyone. He thinks I'm working for Victor. He's an idiot." "Am I?" Dante looked at her. "Are you working for Victor?" "No." "Then that's the end of it." But it wasn't. Elise could feel it, the way the other men looked at her now. The way Vincent had said your new girl like she was something Dante had picked up and would throw away just as easily. She was an outsider, would always be an outsider. And in Dante's world, outsiders died. Bikok. 3 days later, Elise was running errands, picking up documents from a lawyer's office, dropping off payments to contractors, when she noticed the car. Black sedan, tinted windows. It had been behind her for the last 4 blocks. She turned left. The sedan turned left. She turned right. So did the sedan. Her pulse quickened. She pulled into a parking garage, drove up 3 levels, and parked. Waited. The sedan appeared 30 seconds later. Elise got out and walked toward the stairwell, her phone in her hand. She texted Dante. Being followed. The reply was immediate. "Where?" "Parking garage, State and Madison. Stay where you are. Help's coming." The stairwell door opened behind her. Elise spun. A man stepped out. Tall, scarred, wearing a leather jacket with a serpent tattoo visible on his neck. Victor's man. "Elise Carter," he said. His voice was rough, damaged. "We need to talk." "I don't think so." Elise backed up, looking for an exit. "Wasn't a request." He moved fast, faster than she expected. His hand closed around her arm, and he shoved her against the wall. Pain exploded through her shoulder. "Victor wants his property back," the man said. "The flash drive. You took it. We want it." I don't know what you're talking about. He hit her, open-handed, across the face. Her head snapped sideways, stars bursting behind her eyes. Don't lie to me. We know you were at the gala. We know you went into Victor's office. Give me the drive, and maybe you walk out of here. Elise tasted blood. Go fuck yourself. He hit her again, this time with his fist. She went down hard, her vision swimming. Through the haze, she saw him reach for something inside his jacket. A gun. Then the stairwell door exploded open. Dante came through like a storm, 2 men behind him. Gunfire cracked through the garage, loud, deafening, echoing off concrete. Victor's man dropped. Dante was beside Elise in seconds, pulling her to her feet. Can you walk? She nodded, even though her head spun. Car. Now! They ran. Tsiki. Back at the mansion, Dante's doctor, a quiet man who asked no questions, patched up Elise's face. Split lip, bruised cheek, mild concussion. You'll be sore for a few days, the doctor said. Ice and rest. When he left, Dante sat across from her, his expression unreadable. This is my fault, he said finally. What? I sent you to that party, put you in Victor's crosshairs. Now he knows you're involved. I knew the risks. Did you? Dante leaned forward. Because it's about to get worse. Victor won't stop. He'll come for you again. And next time, I might not get there in time. Elise touched her swollen lip, winced. So what do we do? You move in here. Full time. No more going out alone, no more errands. You stay inside these walls where I can protect you. That's a prison. That's survival. Elise wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she wouldn't live in a cage. But then she remembered the feel of that gun pressing against her skull, the cold certainty in Victor's man's eyes that he would pull the trigger. Okay, she whispered. Dante stood. I'll have your things moved from the apartment. You'll stay in the east wing, more secure. He was halfway to the door when Elise spoke. Dante. He stopped. The flash drive, the trafficking network, we can't just sit on that information. What do you suggest? There has to be someone we can trust, someone who isn't on Victor's payroll. Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and scrolled through something. His face changed, just slightly, but enough that Elise noticed. What is it? She asked. He turned the phone toward her. On the screen was a photo. A young woman, maybe 19 or 20, dark hair, scared eyes. Her name was Celine, Dante said, his voice rough. My sister. Elise's breath caught. Was? Victor took her. 6 years ago. Told me if I interfered with his business, he'd kill her. I've been looking for her ever since. He stared at the photo like he could will it to life. The flash drive has a list of locations, drop houses, holding facilities. If Celine's still alive, she's in one of them. The pieces clicked into place. This wasn't just about business. Wasn't just about territory or money. This was personal. We find her, Elise said. Dante looked at her. This isn't your fight. You made it my fight when you pulled me into this world. She stood, ignoring the way her head throbbed. If there's a chance to save her, to save any of them, we have to try. For the first time since she'd met him, Dante looked almost human, vulnerable, like the mask had slipped just enough to show the man underneath. Okay, he said, but we do this my way. We go in smart, careful, no heroes. No heroes, Elise agreed. Dante started for the door again, then paused. Elise, yeah? Thank you. He left before she could respond. Elise sat alone in the room, her face aching, her mind racing. She thought about Celine, about all the other girls trapped in Victor's network, about the choice she'd made weeks ago that had led her here. She'd signed on to save her brother. Now she was going to save Dante's sister, and somewhere in the space between those two things, she'd stopped being a victim and started being something else. She just wasn't sure what yet. Over the next 48 hours, Dante mobilized. He pulled in every resource he had. Hackers to track Victor's movements, informants to confirm locations, soldiers to prepare for what came next. Elise stayed in the East Wing like he'd ordered, but she wasn't idle. She pored over the files from the flash drive, cross-referencing names and addresses, building a map of Victor's operation. It was massive. Bigger than she'd imagined. Dozens of locations across 3 states. Hundreds of girls cycled through the system every year. Some sold, some killed, some just disappeared. And buried in the middle of it all was a note. Handwritten. Addressed to someone called MR. Package delivered. Subject stable. Awaiting further instructions. The date was 6 months ago. Elise showed it to Dante. What's MR? He stared at the note for a long time. Marco Rinaldi. Your guy who was killed? Yeah. Dante's voice was tight. He was investigating Victor's network, trying to find Celine. That's why Victor had him executed. So Marco found something. Maybe. Dante looked at her. Or maybe he got too close, and Victor silenced him before he could report back. Either way, we need to find out what he knew. Dante made a call. 20 minutes later, Vincent arrived with a box. Marco's personal effects. Files, notes, a laptop. They went through everything. Most of it was routine, financial records, meeting notes, contacts. But buried in the laptop's files was a folder labeled SV Celine Voss. Inside were photos, surveillance shots of a warehouse in Gary, Indiana, a manifest showing deliveries, girls, listed by age and physical description like livestock, and a map with one location circled in red. That's it, Dante said. That's where she is. Elise looked at the date on the manifest. This was 3 weeks ago. She could be anywhere by now. Or she's still there. It's a holding facility. They keep girls there before moving them to buyers. So we go in. We go in smart. Dante closed the laptop. Vincent, I need 20 men, armed, ready to move in 6 hours. Vincent hesitated. Boss, if we hit Victor's warehouse, he'll retaliate, could start a full-scale war. Then let it start. Wag. They left at midnight. 4 cars, 22 men, enough firepower to level a city block. Elise rode with Dante, Vincent in the front passenger seat, tension thick enough to choke on. The warehouse sat on the outskirts of Gary, surrounded by abandoned factories and empty lots. No lights, no obvious security. Too quiet. Something's wrong, Vincent muttered. Dante didn't respond. He pulled a gun from under his seat and checked the magazine. Everyone stays sharp. We go in, we get the girls, we get out. No unnecessary risks. They moved in formation, half the men around back, half through the front. Elise stayed with Dante despite his orders to wait in the car. She wasn't sitting this one out. The front door was unlocked. Inside the warehouse was dark, empty. Their footsteps echoed on concrete. Spread out, Dante ordered. Check every room. Elise followed him through a maze of corridors, storage rooms, offices, all empty. Then they found the basement. The stairs descended into darkness. Dante clicked on a flashlight and led the way down. At the bottom was a hallway lined with doors, steel doors with locks, and behind them, voices, crying. Dante ran to the first door and shot the lock off. Inside, 3 girls huddled in the corner, young, terrified. It's okay, Elise said, stepping forward. We're here to help. More doors, more girls, 15 in total, but no Celine. Dante checked every face, every corner. His expression grew darker with each empty room. She's not here, Vincent said. Keep looking. They searched the entire basement, found evidence, chains, cameras, logs documenting every girl who'd passed through, but Celine wasn't among them. Dante slammed his fist against the wall. God damn it! Then Elise saw it. A folder on a desk in the corner office, labeled Transfers. She opened it. Inside was a list of names and destinations. And at the bottom, S. Voss, transferred to Riverside location. Buyer, private. Dante. Elise held up the folder. He read it. His face went pale. Riverside. That's Victor's personal estate. She's alive. She's with Victor. Dante's hands shook. He's been keeping her there all this time. Vincent appeared in the doorway. Boss, we need to move. Police are going to show up any minute. Get the girls out. Take them somewhere safe. Medical attention, food, whatever they need. What about you? Dante looked at Elise, then at the folder in her hands. I'm going to get my sister back. Boik. The plan was suicide. Everyone said so. Victor's estate was a fortress. Walls, guards, cameras, the works. Going in would be a death sentence. Dante didn't care. They sat in the mansion's study, maps spread across the desk, Vincent arguing for the 10th time that they needed more time to plan. "We don't have time," Dante said. "If Victor knows we hit his warehouse, he'll move Celine. We go tonight." "With what? We've got maybe 15 guys left after the warehouse. Victor has double that, plus home field advantage." "Then we make it count." Elise stood. "I'm coming with you." "No." "Yes. You need someone Victor doesn't know, someone who can get inside." "Absolutely not." "Dante." She met his eyes. "You said I was useful, so let me be useful." The room fell silent. Finally, Dante nodded. "Fine, but you do exactly what I say. No improvising." "Deal." They spent the next 3 hours preparing. Weapons, routes, backup plans. At 3 a.m., they left for Riverside. The estate sat on 20 acres of lakefront property, high walls, iron gates, guards visible even from a distance. "Front gate's suicide," Vincent said. "We need another way in." Elise pulled up a satellite image on her phone. "Service entrance, east side, less security." "How do you know?" "I did my homework." Dante almost smiled. "Good. Vincent, take half the men through the service entrance. I'll take the rest through the north wall. Elise comes with me." They split up. Elise climbed the north wall behind Dante, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. On the other side, the estate sprawled. Gardens, fountains, a massive house lit up like a palace. They moved through the shadows, avoiding patrols, heading for the main house. That's when the lights came on. Floodlights. Everywhere. Blinding. And from the house, Victor's voice echoed through speakers. "Dante Voss, I've been expecting you." Gunfire erupted. Elise hit the ground, bullets tearing through the air above her. Dante pulled her behind a fountain as his men returned fire. "It's a trap," Vincent's voice crackled over the radio. "They were waiting for us." "Fall back," Dante ordered. But before they could move, the main doors of the house opened, and Victor walked out. He wasn't alone. Beside him, held at gunpoint by a man twice her size, was a young woman with dark hair and terrified eyes. "Celine." "Let's make a deal," Victor called. "The flash drive for your sister." Dante froze. Elise looked at him, saw the calculation behind his eyes, saw the choice tearing him apart, and she realized with absolute certainty that whatever happened next would change everything. "Don't do it," she whispered, but Dante was already standing. "I have the drive," he shouted. "Let her go first." Victor smiled. "I don't think so." Then everything exploded into chaos, gunfire, screaming, blood and smoke, and the gunfire started before Dante finished his sentence. Muzzle flashes lit up the night like lightning, crack after crack splitting the air. Elise pressed herself against the fountain as chunks of marble exploded above her head, dust and debris raining down. Her ears rang, her lungs burned. Every instinct screamed run, but her legs wouldn't move. Dante fired back, his face a mask of controlled fury. Around them his men scattered, some taking cover behind statues and hedges, others dropping where they stood. Blood pooled on the pristine white gravel. Victor's guards advanced from the house, a wall of firepower cutting them down systematically. "We need to move!" Vincent's voice crackled through the radio, barely audible over the chaos. "Now!" Dante grabbed Elise's arm and hauled her to her feet. "Stay behind me!" They ran, low and fast, zigzagging between cover. A bullet whipped past Elise's head so close she felt the heat of it. Another took out the man running beside her. She heard the impact, the wet sound of it. Then he was down and they kept moving because stopping meant dying. They made it to the gardens, dense hedges providing temporary cover. Dante pressed his back against a marble fountain, checking his magazine. 6 rounds left. His jaw was tight, a muscle jumping in his cheek. "Where's Celine?" Elise gasped. Victor pulled her inside like... Dante's voice was hoarse, raw. "Soon as the shooting started." "So what do we do?" Before he could answer, Vincent appeared through the hedge, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. 3 men followed him, all that was left of the team that had come through the service entrance. "Northside's gone," Vincent panted. "They had shooters on the roof. We're cut off." Dante looked back toward the house. Windows glowed gold. Inside somewhere, his sister was being held at gunpoint. Outside, his men were dying. The math was simple, brutal. Fall back, Dante said. Everyone out, now. What about Celine? Elise demanded. We can't get to her, not like this. So we just leave her? Dante's eyes were cold, empty. We leave or we die. Those are the options. Vincent was already moving, pulling his men back toward the north wall. Elise looked at Dante, really looked, saw something breaking behind his eyes, something fracturing under the weight of impossible choices. I'm sorry, she whispered. He didn't respond, just grabbed her hand and ran. They made it over the wall as Victor's men flooded the gardens. Gunfire chased them into the trees beyond, bullets tearing through branches. Someone screamed. One of Dante's men hit. They didn't stop. Couldn't stop. The cars were where they'd left them, hidden in the woods half a mile from the estate. 6 men piled into 2 vehicles. Out of 22. Dante drove in silence, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Blood spattered his shirt. His face. Not all of it his. Elise sat in the passenger seat, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. She'd never been in a firefight before. Never seen men die that close. Never smelled gunpowder and blood mixed with cut grass and expensive cologne. Her hands were sticky. She looked down and realized it was blood. Not hers. Someone else's. She didn't know whose. The drive back to Chicago felt like hours. No one spoke. The radio silence was worse than screaming. They didn't go to the mansion. Too exposed. Instead, Dante directed them to a building in the warehouse district, one of his properties, reinforced, with security that made Fort Knox look casual. Inside was sparse. Concrete floors, metal doors. The kind of place designed for one thing, surviving a siege. Vincent collapsed into a chair, his head in his hands. The other men scattered to check wounds, reload weapons, try to process what had just happened. Dante walked to the window overlooking the river. Stood there. Didn't move. Elise approached slowly. Dante. Don't. We'll find another way. There is no other way. His voice was flat. Dead. Victor has her. He knows I want her back. That makes her leverage. He'll use her to destroy me piece by piece until there's nothing left. Then we destroy him first. Dante turned. The look on his face made Elise take a step back. With what? He asked quietly. I just lost 16 men. Victor knows we have the flash drive, which means he's already moving his operation. Burning evidence, killing witnesses. By tomorrow, everything on that drive will be worthless. We still have the girls from the warehouse. They can testify. Testify to who? The cops Victor owns, the judges on his payroll? Dante's laugh was bitter, broken. You still don't understand. There's no winning this. Not anymore. So that's it? You give up? I'm being realistic. You're being a coward. The words hung in the air like a grenade. Vincent's head snapped up. The other men went still. Dante crossed the space between them in 2 strides, grabbed Elise by the throat and slammed her against the wall. Not hard enough to hurt, just hard enough to make his point. Say that again, he whispered. Elise met his eyes, didn't flinch. You're being a coward. For a moment she thought he'd kill her. Saw it in his eyes, the fury, the pain, the desperate need to hurt something because he couldn't hurt the thing that mattered. Then he let go, stepped back, turned away. Get out of my sight. Elise rubbed her throat. Dante. I said get out. She left. Found an empty room down the hall and shut the door. Slid down the wall and sat on the cold concrete, her whole body shaking again, but for different reasons now. She'd pushed too hard. Crossed a line. But she couldn't take it back. Wouldn't take it back because he was giving up, and Celine was still out there. Hours passed. Elise must have fallen asleep at some point because when she opened her eyes, dawn light filtered through the high windows. Her neck ached. Her whole body felt like it had been used as a punching bag. She found Vincent in the main room cleaning his gun. He looked up when she entered but didn't speak. Where's Dante? She asked. Office. Been there all night. Elise walked down this hall and found the office door half open. Inside, Dante sat at a desk covered in papers, maps, financial records, the contents of the flash drive printed out. He looked like he hadn't slept. Probably hadn't. Can I come in? she asked. He didn't look up. It's your funeral. She entered, closed the door, sat in the chair across from him. I shouldn't have said what I said. You meant it. Yeah, but I shouldn't have said it like that. Dante set down the paper he was reading, looked at her. His eyes were bloodshot, haunted. You want to know the truth? He said. The real reason I'm not charging back in there? Yes. Because I'm terrified. The admission seemed to cost him. For 6 years I've searched for Celine, spent millions, risked everything, and the whole time I told myself that when I found her, I'd save her, that I'd be strong enough, smart enough, ruthless enough to bring her home. He laughed, a sound without humor. But last night proved I'm not. I'm just a man playing at being a king, and now my sister's paying the price for my arrogance. Elise leaned forward. You're not arrogant for trying to save her. You're human. Being human doesn't bring her back. No, but giving up guarantees you'll lose her forever. Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled a photo from his pocket. Old, creased. A younger version of himself with his arm around a girl maybe 13 years old. Dark hair, bright eyes, smiling like the world was full of possibilities. She used to follow me everywhere, he said softly. Drove me crazy. I'd tell her to go away, that I had important business to handle. She'd just laugh and say she was my partner, that we were a team. He stared at the photo like it might come to life. The night Victor took her, we'd had a fight. Something stupid. I don't even remember what. She ran off crying and I let her go. Figured she'd cool down and come back. His voice cracked. She never came back. Elise felt something twist in her chest. It wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? I'm her older brother. I was supposed to protect her. Instead, I let Victor steal her because I was too proud to chase after her when she was upset. You were a kid. I was old enough to know better. Elise reached across the desk. Took the photo. Studied the girl's face. She looks like you, she said. Yeah. Stubborn, fierce, like she wouldn't give up even if the world tried to break her. Dante looked up. If she's anything like you, Elise continued, then she's survived this long for a reason. She's waiting for you. And if you give up now, you prove Victor right, that you're not strong enough to save her. The words settled between them. Dante took the photo back, stared at it for another long moment, then he stood. Vincent! The door opened. Vincent stepped in. Get everyone together, Dante said. We're going back. Vincent's eyes widened. Boss, we don't have the numbers. Then we get creative. Dante turned to Elise. You said Victor's operation is on that flash drive, every location, every route, every name. Yeah, then we don't go after Victor directly. We go after everything he cares about, burn his operation to the ground, force him to come to us. Vincent shook his head. That'll take weeks. We don't have weeks. Then we do it in days. Dante's voice was hard, certain. I want targets identified by noon, teams ready to move by tonight. We hit him everywhere at once, warehouses, front companies, distribution centers, all of it. And Celine? Victor needs the flash drive. He knows we have it. We make enough noise, cause enough damage, he'll have no choice but to negotiate. Elise stood. What do you need me to do? Dante looked at her. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe, or recognition. Help me plan. You've got a good head for details. We need to hit the right targets in the right order to cause maximum damage without getting ourselves killed. Done. By noon, they had a list. 12 locations across Chicago and Gary. Warehouses, front companies, safe houses, each one tied to Victor's trafficking network. Dante divided his remaining men into teams, 4 men per target. Hit fast. Hit hard. Get out before police or Victor's reinforcements arrived. We're not trying to hold territory, he explained. We're sending a message. Victor wants a war? This is what war looks like. Vincent looked skeptical but didn't argue. They spent the afternoon gathering supplies, weapons, explosives, fuel. By the time the sun set, they were ready. Dante pulled Elise aside before they left. You're staying here. Like hell. This isn't up for debate. You're not trained for this. I was at the warehouse. I was at the estate. And you got lucky. This is different. These are coordinated strikes on hardened targets. You go in without training, you die. Simple as that. Elise wanted to argue, but she saw the logic, saw the concern beneath his stubbornness. "Fine," she said, "but you better come back." "That's the plan." He turned to leave. She grabbed his arm. "Dante, be careful." He almost smiled. "Careful's not really my style." Then he was gone. Elise waited in the warehouse, pacing, checking her phone every 30 seconds. Vincent had left her a radio so she could monitor communications, but the chatter was sparse. Coded phrases, terse confirmations. Target 1 down. Target 3 in progress. Target 5 clear. Each update meant another piece of Victor's empire burning. Elise imagined warehouses going up in flames, front companies being raided, safe houses emptied and torched. It was working. Then the radio crackled. Dante's voice, tense. "We've got a problem." Elise grabbed the radio. "What kind of problem?" "Target 7 was supposed to be a distribution center. It's not. It's residential. Families, kids." Her stomach dropped. "Get out of there." "Already leaving, but someone set us up. This address came from the flash drive, and the flash drive came from Victor's office. Maybe it was a mistake. Or maybe it was bait." Dante's voice was grim. "Vincent, pull everyone back. Now." But it was too late. Elise heard it through the radio, sirens. Lots of them. Then shouting, gunfire. "They were waiting for us," Vincent's voice, crackling with static. "It's a setup. They knew we'd—" The radio went dead. Elise's hands shook. "Dante? Vincent? Anyone?" Silence. She tried again and again. Nothing. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. "Hello?" "Elise Carter." Victor's voice. Smooth, cultured, like they were discussing the weather. "We need to talk." Her blood went cold. "How did you get this number?" "I know everything about you, where you live, where your brother's being treated, what you had for breakfast 3 days ago." He paused. "I also know Dante Voss is currently surrounded by police on the south side. He has maybe 5 minutes before they breach his position." "You son of a bitch." Now. Let's be civil. I'm calling to offer you a deal." "I'm not interested." "You haven't heard the terms yet. Here they are. You bring me the flash drive, and I let Dante live. You refuse, and he dies in police custody tonight. Heart attack. Very tragic." Elise's mind raced. "How do I know you'll keep your word?" "You don't. But consider the alternative. Dante dies, his organization collapses, and you go back to pouring drinks at the Monarch. Assuming you survive the week, of course. And Celine? That depends on how cooperative you are." Elise closed her eyes, felt the walls closing in. "Where do you want to meet?" "Riverside Hotel, penthouse suite. 1 hour. Come alone. Bring the drive." "And if I don't?" "Then I put a bullet in Celine's head and mail her to Dante piece by piece." The line went dead. Elise stood frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear. Her mind spun through options, scenarios, ways out. None of them good. If she went to Victor, she was dead. He'd take the drive and kill her. If she didn't go, Dante was dead. Celine was dead. Everything they'd fought for was finished. She looked around the warehouse, at the maps on the walls, the weapons on the table, the evidence of a war they were losing. Then she made her choice. She grabbed the flash drive from Dante's desk, checked the gun he'd left her, loaded, safety on, tucked it into the back of her jeans, and walked out into the night. The Riverside Hotel looked the same as it had during the gala. Same gold fixtures, same marble floors, same pretense of elegance hiding rot underneath. Elise took the elevator to the penthouse, her heart hammering against her ribs. The gun pressed cold against her spine. The flash drive felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds in her pocket. The elevator doors opened. Victor stood in the center of the suite, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Owen's first round of treatment. 2 men flanked him, armed, professional, eyes tracking Elise's every movement. And in the corner, tied to a chair, was Celine. She looked worse than her photo, thin, bruised, her hair matted and dirty, but alive. Her eyes met Elise's, dark and terrified, and still fighting. "Miss Carter?" Victor smiled. "Thank you for being punctual." Elise pulled out the flash drive, held it up. "Here's your leverage. Let them go." "Them?" "Dante and Celine, that was the deal. I don't recall promising Celine's release, I said her fate depended on your cooperation. She stays with me. Insurance, in case Dante gets any more bright ideas. Elise's hand moved toward the gun at her back. Both of Victor's men drew faster. She froze. I wouldn't, Victor said mildly. My men are excellent shots. You'd be dead before you cleared leather, as they say. Elise raised her hand slowly. What do you want? The drive. Obviously. She tossed it to him. He caught it, examined it, then handed it to one of his men. Verify it. The man pulled out a laptop and plugged in the drive. 30 seconds later, he nodded. Excellent. Victor pocketed the drive. Now, about Dante. You said you'd let him live, and I will. He's already been released. The police received an anonymous tip about a gas leak in the building. Very heroic of them to evacuate everyone before it exploded. Elise's stomach twisted. What did you do? Saved his life. Exactly as promised. Of course, he lost 5 more men in the confusion, but that's hardly my fault. You bastard. I'm a businessman. I eliminate threats efficiently. Victor moved closer. Which brings us to you. What about me? You're the interesting variable in this equation. Dante cares about you. I can see it. The way he looks at you, the way he risks his men to keep you safe. That makes you valuable. I'm not going to be your hostage. No. You're going to be my message. Victor nodded to his men. They grabbed Elise before she could react. One twisted her arms behind her back. The other pressed a gun to her temple. Wait. Celine's voice, hoarse and cracking. Wait, please. Don't hurt her. Victor turned. Why not? Because she tried to help me. She didn't have to come here, but she did. Please, let her go. For a moment, Victor actually seemed to consider it. Then he shook his head. I'm afraid I can't do that. You see, Dante needs to understand that actions have consequences. He came into my home, killed my men, tried to steal my property. That requires a response. He pulled a gun from inside his jacket, walked toward Elise. She struggled, but the men holding her were too strong. The gun at her temple pressed harder. Tell Dante something for me, Victor said, raising his weapon. Tell him this is what happens when he forgets his place. The gun swung toward Celine. Elise screamed, No! The shot echoed through the suite. But it wasn't Victor who fired. It was the man holding Elise. He jerked once, blood blooming across his chest, then collapsed. The second man turned, raising his weapon. Another shot. He went down. Dante stepped through the penthouse door, gun raised, Vincent behind him with 3 more men. Victor spun, bringing his weapon around. Dante fired first. Victor's shoulder exploded. He dropped the gun, staggering backward, blood pouring between his fingers. You're dead, he gasped. The police never had me. That was you getting bad intel from a cop on my payroll. Dante advanced, his face a mask of cold fury. Did you really think I'd let Elise walk in here alone? Elise's mind spun. You knew? Vincent traced Victor's call. We've been in the building for 20 minutes, listening, waiting. He crossed to Celine and cut her free. She collapsed into his arms, sobbing. For a moment, Dante just held her, his sister, alive, finally within reach after 6 years of searching. Then he looked at Victor. You took everything from me, Dante said quietly. My sister. My men. 6 years of my life, and you thought a flash drive would save you? Victor laughed, wet and pained. You think you've won? This changes nothing. My organization is bigger than me. Kill me and someone else takes over. The network continues. You're right. Dante handed Celine to Vincent. That's why I'm not killing you. He pulled out his phone, made a call. It's done, he said. Send it. 30 seconds later, Victor's phone buzzed. He pulled it out with shaking hands, opened a message. His face went white. What is this? He whispered. Everything on your flash drive, every name, every location, every dirty cop and judge and politician. I just sent it to every major news outlet in the country. By morning, your entire network will be front-page news. Victor stared at the phone, at the evidence of his empire about to crumble. You've destroyed us both. No, I destroyed you. My businesses are legitimate. I made sure of that years ago, but yours, you're finished. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Real police this time, Dante said. The FBI, actually. Anonymous tip about a human trafficking ring operating out of the Riverside Hotel penthouse. Funny thing about anonymous tips, when they come with evidence, people pay attention. Victor tried to stand. His legs gave out. He slumped against the wall, blood pooling beneath him. Dante turned to leave, stopped, looked back. I hope it was worth it, he said. All those girls, all that money. Because where you're going, none of it matters. They left Victor bleeding on the floor as federal agents flooded the building. Wait, the safe house was different this time. Not a warehouse. An actual house on the outskirts of the city. Quiet. Secluded. The kind of place where you could catch your breath and remember what normal felt like. Celine sat wrapped in blankets on the couch, eating soup Margaret had made. She'd showered, changed into clean clothes, but the hollow look in her eyes said the damage went deeper than anything soap could wash away. Dante sat beside her, not speaking, just present. His hand rested on her shoulder like he was afraid she might disappear if he let go. Elise watched from the kitchen doorway, felt like an intruder on something sacred. Vincent appeared beside her. We got confirmation. FBI took Victor into custody. Critical condition but stable. They're already rolling up his network. The girls from the warehouse? Safe. Being processed through proper channels now. Counseling. Medical care, immigration assistance for the ones who need it. Elise nodded. It was over. They'd won. So why did it feel like they'd lost everything? You okay? Vincent asked. I don't know. Yeah, me neither. He walked away, leaving Elise alone with her thoughts. Dante stood and crossed to her. He looked exhausted, older somehow, like the last few days had aged him years. Thank you, he said simply. For what? For not giving up. For pushing me when I wanted to quit. For walking into Victor's trap knowing you might not walk out. I didn't do it for you. I know, you did it for Celine, for those girls. He paused. That makes it mean more. Elise looked past him at Celine. What happens now? She needs help, real help, therapy, time, space to heal. Dante's voice was rough. I can give her all of that. But I can't give her back the 6 years she lost. No, but you can give her the rest of her life. He nodded, turned to leave. Dante. He stopped. Owen's treatment. The contract. What happens to that now? Dante pulled an envelope from his pocket, handed it to her. Inside was the contract she'd signed, torn in half. You're free, he said. The money keeps coming. Owen gets his treatment, but you don't owe me anything. Not anymore. Elise stared at the torn paper. Why? By it all because you were never really mine. You just convinced yourself you were because it was easier than admitting you chose to stay. The words hit harder than any bullet. Go home, Elise. See your brother. Live your life. You earned it. He walked away before she could respond. What? Elise left that night, took her things, which weren't much, and caught a cab back to her old apartment. The building looked exactly the same. Somehow that felt wrong, like the world should look different after everything that had happened. She climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor and stopped outside her door. Someone was inside. She could hear movement, footsteps. Elise's hand moved to her pocket, but she'd left the gun at the safe house. She was unarmed, vulnerable. The door opened. A man stepped out, tall, sharp features, wearing a suit that screamed federal agent. Miss Carter, he flashed a badge. FBI, Special Agent Morrison. We need to talk. Her stomach dropped. About what? About Dante Voss. About Victor Hale. About your involvement in everything that happened over the last month. He gestured inside. May we? 3 more agents sat in her living room. They'd made themselves comfortable. One was photographing her bookshelf. Another was going through her mail. You have a warrant? Elise asked. We don't need one. You're not under arrest. Yet. Morrison sat in her chair. But you are a person of interest in an ongoing investigation. We'd like your cooperation. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? Morrison pulled out a tablet, showed her photos. Elise at the Monarch. Elise entering Dante's office building. Elise at the gala. And one more. Elise in the penthouse suite at the Riverside Hotel, standing over Victor Hale's bleeding body. You've been busy, Morrison said, working for a known criminal, attending events where illegal deals were brokered, breaking and entering, assault. We could make a very compelling case for conspiracy. Elise's mouth went dry. I want a lawyer. Of course. But before you call one, consider this. We don't actually care about you. You're small time. What we want is Dante Voss. He didn't do anything wrong. He orchestrated a coordinated attack on Victor Hale's organization. Multiple counts of arson, destruction of property. We have witnesses, evidence. Victor Hale was running a human trafficking ring. Dante stopped him. By breaking the law. Vigilante justice is still illegal, Miss Carter. No matter how noble the intentions. Morrison leaned forward. Here's what I'm offering. You testify against Dante Voss. Tell us everything you know about his organization. In exchange, we grant you immunity. You walk away clean. And if I refuse, then we charge you as an accessory to everything Dante did. You'll spend the next 20 years in federal prison, which means your brother dies before you get out. The words landed like a punch. Morrison stood. You have 24 hours to decide. After that, the offer expires. He left. The other agents followed. Elise sat alone in her apartment, surrounded by the wreckage of her old life, and realized with sick clarity that it wasn't over. It was never going to be over. Not until she chose which side she was really on. She didn't sleep that night, just sat at her kitchen table, staring at her phone, Morrison's card sitting beside it. Call Dante, warn him, call Morrison, save herself. 2 choices, both terrible. At dawn, she made her decision. She picked up the phone and dialed. It rang twice before a voice answered. Hello? Elise took a breath, steadied herself. We need to talk, she said. And in that moment, everything changed one final time, because the voice on the other end wasn't Dante. It was Owen. Elle, where have you been? The hospital's been trying to reach you. Something's wrong with the treatment. They said the payment stopped. They said... The phone slipped from her fingers, crashed to the floor. Elise stared at it like it was a snake. The payment stopped. Dante had promised. The contract was void, but the money would keep coming. Owen would get his treatment, he'd promised. Unless he hadn't. Unless the whole thing, the envelope, the torn contract, the freedom, was a test. And she'd failed. Elise grabbed the phone, called Dante's number. It went straight to voicemail. She tried again, same result. She tried Vincent, Margaret, everyone, nothing. Panic clawed at her throat. She pulled on shoes, grabbed her coat, and ran. The safe house was empty when she arrived. No Dante, no Celine, no Vincent, just silence and the lingering smell of gunpowder. They were gone. Elise stood in the empty room, her breath coming in short gasps, her mind fracturing. Then her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You chose poorly. D attached was a photo. Owen. In his hospital bed, looking scared, and standing beside him just out of frame, the shadow of a man holding something that might have been a gun. Elise's legs gave out. She collapsed to the floor, the phone still clutched in her hand, and finally understood the truth. She was never free, would never be free, because in Dante's world, freedom was just another word for leverage. And she'd just given him all the leverage he needed to own her completely. The phone buzzed again. Another text. Come back. Or Owen dies. You have 1 hour. D 60 minutes. To choose between her soul and her brother's life. To decide if she was willing to become the monster she'd been running from. To accept that the person she'd been before all of this, naive, hopeful, human, was dead. And something else had taken her place. Something darker. Something that knew how to survive. Elise stood, wiped her eyes, steadied her breathing. Then she walked out into the early morning light, toward whatever waited on the other side of this choice. Because there was no other option. There never had been. She belonged to Dante Voss. And she always. She belonged to Dante Voss. And she always would. The thought settled into Elise's bones like ice as she walked through Chicago's early morning streets. The city was waking up. Delivery trucks rumbling past, commuters shuffling toward the train, coffee shops flipping their signs to open. Normal people living normal lives, completely unaware that 3 blocks away, a woman was walking toward her own execution. Or her rebirth. Elise wasn't sure which yet. Her phone buzzed every 5 minutes. Morrison's number. She didn't answer. Let it ring until it went to voicemail, then watched the notification appear. 12 missed calls now. The FBI wanted her decision. They'd have to wait. The address Dante texted led to a building she recognized, the downtown office where she'd first signed the contract that had destroyed her life. Or saved it. The line between those two things had blurred so completely she couldn't tell them apart anymore. Security waved her through without a word. The elevator ride to the top floor felt longer this time. Or maybe time had just slowed down, the way it does when you're walking towards something that will either break you or forge you into something new. The doors opened. Dante stood by the windows overlooking the city, his back to her. He didn't turn when she entered. 58 minutes, he said. You're early. Elise's hands clenched into fists. Where's Owen? Safe. For now. I want to see him. No. You said, I said come back or he dies. You came back. He lives. That was the deal. Dante finally turned. His face was unreadable. But you don't get to see him. Not yet. Why are you doing this? Because you needed to understand something. He moved closer, each step deliberate. You think you made a choice when you walked away last night, that you were free. But freedom's an illusion, Elise, always has been. We're all owned by something, money, power, love, fear. The only difference is whether we admit it. So this is what? A lesson? This is reality. Dante stopped 3 feet away, close enough to see the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his jaw. Morrison came to see you, offered you a deal. Elise's blood went cold. How did you... I told you, I know everything. He wants you to testify against me. Gave you 24 hours to decide. And you're what? Testing me? Seeing if I'll betray you? No. I'm giving you a choice. The first real choice you've had since this started. What choice? Dante pulled an envelope from his jacket, handed it to her. Inside were 2 documents. The first was a wire transfer confirmation, $2 million, deposited into an account in her name. The second was a plane ticket, one way to Sydney, Australia, departing in 6 hours. Take the money, Dante said. Get on that plane. Start over somewhere Morrison can't touch you. Owen's treatment continues. I've already set up a trust that pays directly to the hospital. He'll never know where the money comes from. Elise stared at the documents. Her hands shook. And what do you get? I lose my best witness. Morrison's case falls apart without your testimony. I stay free. That's not what I asked. What do you get? Dante's expression flickered. The knowledge that I didn't completely destroy you. Bullshit. Elise threw the envelope back at him. You don't do anything out of guilt, so what's the catch? There is no catch. There's always a catch. Dante picked up the envelope, set it on his desk. You want the truth? Fine. Victor's network is finished. The FBI has enough evidence to dismantle everything he built. But they need someone to pin the violence on. The killings, the warehouse raids. Right now, I'm their target. So you want me to disappear so they can't use me against you? I want you to survive. His voice was quiet, intense. You walked into my world because you had no choice. Because I gave you an impossible decision and you made the only one that would save your brother. Everything that came after, that's on me, not you. Elise laughed, bitter. You're actually trying to make yourself the villain here? I am the villain. No. You're a man who did terrible things for someone he loves, just like me. She moved closer. So stop pretending this is some noble gesture. You want me gone because it's convenient, because it ties up loose ends, not because you suddenly grew a conscience. Dante's jaw tightened. Believe whatever you want. I believe you're scared. Of what? Of me. Of what I represent. I'm the civilian who saw behind the curtain and didn't run screaming. I'm the variable you can't control. Elise stepped into his space, close enough to feel his breath. And that terrifies you because it means you actually give a damn whether I live or die. The air between them crackled. Dante's hand moved fast, gripping her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. You don't know what you're talking about. Then prove me wrong. Let me see Owen, right now. If this is really about setting me free, let me see my brother and hear from his own mouth that he's okay. For a long moment, Dante didn't move, just held her there, his fingers tight against her jaw, something dangerous and desperate burning behind his eyes.
Then he let go, pulled out his phone, made a call. "Bring him up," he said. 3 minutes later, the elevator doors opened. Owen stepped out, followed by Vincent. Her brother looked pale but whole. No bruises, no blood, just scared and confused and very much alive. "Elle?" His voice cracked. "What's going on? These guys showed up at the hospital and said..." Elise crossed the room and pulled him into a hug so tight he gasped. "Are you okay? Did they hurt you?" "No, I'm fine, just confused." Owen pulled back, looking between Elise and Dante. "Who are these people? Why did they bring me here?" "It's complicated." "That's not an answer." Dante spoke before Elise could. "Your sister's been working for me. The money for your treatment came from me. Now there are people who want to use her testimony to put me in prison. I needed to make sure she understood the stakes." Owen's eyes went wide. "You're the guy. The one Elle wouldn't talk about. The reason she could suddenly afford..." He turned to Elise. "Are you in trouble?" "I'm handling it." "That's not what I asked."
Elise looked at her brother, 16 years old, fighting cancer, still trying to protect her. And she realized Dante had been right about one thing. Owen was her leverage, her weakness, the thing that could be used to control her forever, unless she cut the cord. "Owen," she said carefully, "I need you to listen to me. Really listen. Can you do that?" He nodded. "I made a deal to save your life, and that deal came with consequences. I've done things, bad things, to keep you alive. And now I have to make another choice." "What kind of choice?" "The kind where I decide whether to keep you safe by staying in this world, or keep you safe by walking away from it completely." Owen's face hardened. "I don't want you doing bad things because of me. It's not your decision. Like hell it isn't. I'm not a kid, Elle. I know what cancer costs. I know what you gave up to keep me in treatment." His voice broke. "But I never asked you to sell your soul." "You didn't have to ask." "Then let me give it back." Owen looked at Dante. "Whatever deal you made with my sister, I'm canceling it. She doesn't owe you anything. Not anymore." Dante's expression didn't change. "It doesn't work that way." "Why not?" "Because your sister knows too much. About me. About my organization. About things that could put a lot of people in prison, or worse. I can't just let her walk away." "Then what do you want?" "I want her to choose, stay and accept what that means, or go and never look back." Owen turned to Elise. "Take the money. Get on the plane. I'll figure out the rest." "You'll die." "Maybe. Maybe not. But at least you'll be free." Elise felt something crack inside her chest. "I can't leave you." "Yeah, you can. You just don't want to." He was right. That was the worst part. He was absolutely right. Elise looked at Dante. "If I stay, what happens? You work for me, officially. No more pretending you're just a consultant. You're part of the organization." "Doing what?" "Whatever needs doing. You're smart, ruthless when you need to be, loyal to the people you care about. Those are valuable traits." "And Owen?" "Treatment continues. Best care money can buy. But he doesn't know where the money comes from. You don't contact him. Don't visit. He thinks you took the money and left." Owen grabbed her arm. "Elle, don't." "It's the only way to keep you safe," Dante continued. "Morrison can't use you as leverage if you don't know anything. If your sister's just some ghost who disappeared and sends money from overseas, that's bullshit," Owen said. "She shouldn't have to..." "She doesn't have to do anything. It's her choice." Dante's eyes locked on Elise. "So choose." The room went silent. Elise looked at her brother, at the boy she'd raised after their mother died, the boy she'd worked 3 jobs to feed, the boy who'd survived leukemia and poverty and 1,000 small heartbreaks because she refused to let him quit. If she left, he'd be alone, but he'd be free. If she stayed, he'd be provided for. But she'd be damned. She thought about her mother, about the promise she'd made at the grave. Take care of him, no matter what. But her mother had never imagined this, never thought Elise would have to choose between her brother's life and her own soul. Elise took a breath, let it out slowly. "I'll stay," she said. Owen's face crumpled. "No, Elle, please." "I'll stay," she repeated, louder. "On one condition." Dante raised an eyebrow. "What condition?" "Celine, I want her safe, away from all this.
New identity, new life. Somewhere you can never drag her back into your world. Done. And the girls from Victor's network, the ones we rescued, I want to know they're being taken care of. Real help, not just dumped into the system and forgotten. I'll set up a fund. Counseling, housing, job training. Whatever they need.
And one more thing, Elise's voice hardened. You never use Owen against me again. Not as leverage, not as a threat, not as anything. He's off limits completely. Forever. Dante considered this, then nodded. Agreed. Then we have a deal. Owen made a sound like he'd been punched. Elle, you can't.
It's already done. She turned to him, forcing her voice steady. You're going to leave here. Go back to the hospital. Finish your treatment. And when you're better, you're going to live your life. College, career, family. All of it. Without you. I'll send money. Make sure you have everything you need. But you can't contact me, can't try to find me. It's safer this way. For who? For both of us. Owen's eyes filled with tears. I hate this.
I know. I hate it too. Elise pulled him into one last hug. Memorized the feel of it, his heartbeat against her chest, the smell of hospital soap in his hair, the way his shoulders shook as he tried not to cry. But you're going to survive. And that's all that matters. I love you, he whispered. I love you too. So much. She pulled back, looked him in the eyes. Now go. Don't look back. Just go. Vincent stepped forward, gentle for once. Come on, kid. I'll take you back. Owen let himself be led to the elevator, stopped at the doors, looked back one more time. Elise forced herself to smile, to wave. The doors closed. And just like that, her brother was gone. Elise stood frozen, her smile cracking, something vital bleeding out of her. She waited until she heard the elevator descend, waited until she was sure Owen was far enough away that he wouldn't hear. Then she turned to Dante and punched him in the face. He staggered back, more from surprise than force. His lip split, blood welled. Feel better? He asked calmly. No. Elise's hands shook. But it's a start. Dante wiped his mouth. Understandable. I need a minute. Take your time. She walked to the windows, pressed her forehead against the glass. The city sprawled below, millions of people going about their lives, completely unaware that 300 feet above them, someone had just traded everything for survival. Dante appeared beside her, didn't speak, just stood there. After a long silence, Elise said, You knew I'd choose this. I hoped you would. Why? Because you're wasted pouring drinks or running errands. You're smart enough to build something, ruthless enough to protect it. You just needed a reason to stop pretending you were anything else. And you gave me that reason. I gave you a choice. You made it. Elise laughed, empty. Some choice, damn my brother or damn myself. Welcome to my world. Every decision's like that. Does it get easier? No, you just get better at living with it. She turned to face him. So what now? You own me. What are you going to do with me? Dante's expression shifted. I don't own you. You just made me give up my brother to work for you. That's ownership. No, that's partnership. He moved closer. I'm not going to make you do anything you don't choose to do, but I am going to ask you to help me finish what we started. Victor's in federal custody. His network's dismantled. What's left to finish? The FBI has Victor, but they don't have everyone. His organization had layers, people who worked for him who slipped through the cracks, buyers, distributors, corrupt officials who helped him operate. Dante's voice went cold. I want them all, every single one, and I need someone I trust to help me hunt them down. Why me? Because you saw what Victor's network did. You looked those girls in the eyes. You understand what's at stake in a way my men never will. He paused. And because you're the only person who's ever told me no and lived. Elise studied his face, saw the exhaustion there, the weight of 6 years searching for his sister, the scars of choices that had carved away pieces of his humanity until only the essential parts remained. Okay, she said. I'll help you, but we do this my way. Which is? No more innocent people caught in the crossfire, no more warehouses full of families.
We target the guilty. Only the guilty. And when this is over, you let the rest of it go. The rest of what? The empire. The control. The need to own everything you touch. Elise held his gaze. You wanted your sister back. You got her. Now let that be enough. Dante was quiet for a long time. Then he extended his hand. Deal. She shook it. His grip was firm, final. They just made a pact that would either save them both or destroy them completely. Elise wasn't sure which. Wasn't sure she cared anymore. All she knew was that the person she'd been before, the waitress scraping by, the sister sacrificing everything, the woman who believed in simple choices between right and wrong, was gone. In her place stood someone harder, sharper, someone who understood that survival meant accepting darkness and learning to wield it like a weapon. Someone dangerous. Come on. The next 72 hours moved like a hurricane. Dante pulled together everything he had, files, contacts, information Victor's flash drive had revealed. Names poured out like water from a broken dam, federal agents on Victor's payroll, judges who'd dismissed trafficking cases, politicians who'd taken bribes to look the other way. And deeper down, the real architects, the people who'd funded Victor's operation, who'd created demand for what he supplied. Elise set up operations in Dante's downtown office, turning the top floor into a war room. Maps covered the walls, photos of targets connected by red string, bank records and wire transfers documenting money flows. Vincent supervised security, rotating guards, making sure no one got in or out without clearance. Margaret arrived with food, coffee, whatever they needed to keep working. And Celine, recovering in a private facility outside the city, sent messages through Dante. Don't stop. Find them all. On the second day, Morrison showed up. Security tried to stop him. He flashed a warrant. Elise Carter, he said, standing in the doorway with 4 agents behind him. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit arson, destruction of federal evidence, and obstruction of justice. Elise stood slowly. I haven't done anything. You were present at multiple crime scenes. You aided and abetted Dante Voss in criminal activities. You failed to report human trafficking when you had knowledge of it. Morrison pulled out handcuffs. You have the right to remain. She has immunity, Dante said. Morrison stopped. What? Elise Carter has full immunity, granted by your own office. Check your records. Morrison's face went red. Bullshit. I never... Not you, your boss. I gave him something he wanted more than he wanted me. He gave me immunity for my key witness. What did you give him? Dante smiled. Senator Bradford? On tape. Discussing federal contracts in exchange for campaign donations. Your boss has been trying to nail Bradford for years. I handed him the case on a silver platter. Morrison's jaw clenched. You son of a bitch. I'm a businessman. I trade value for value. Dante's smile vanished. Now get out of my building before I have you arrested for harassment. Morrison looked at Elise. This isn't over. Yeah, it is, she said quietly. You wanted Dante. Now you've got Bradford instead. Take the win and walk away. He left. But the look he gave her promised this wasn't finished. The door closed. Dante turned to Elise. You okay? You traded a senator for me? I traded a senator for the ability to keep working without FBI interference. You were just part of the package. That's not an answer. Dante's expression softened, just barely. You're more valuable than Bradford ever was. So yeah, I traded him for you. Something shifted in Elise's chest. Something warm and terrifying and completely inappropriate given everything that had happened. She shoved it down, focused on the work. We've got 3 targets identified, she said, turning back to the maps. A federal prosecutor in Detroit who buried trafficking cases. A shipping executive in Baltimore who provided transport. And a financier in Manhattan who funded the whole operation. Pick one. We hit them tonight. All 3. Dante raised an eyebrow. That's aggressive. That's what you wanted. Fast, thorough, no second chances. Elise pulled photos off the wall. I've got plans for each one. Vincent's team hits Detroit and Baltimore simultaneously. We take Manhattan. We? You and me. The financier's the big fish. He's got security, connections, money to burn. We need to hit him personally. Make him understand that his empire's over. You realize he'll try to kill us. Then we kill him first. Dante studied her. You've changed.
Yeah, I have. Elise met his eyes. You made sure of that. Regret it? She thought about Owen, about her mother, about the woman she used to be. Ask me again when this is finished. What?
New York City at night looked like every crime movie Elise had ever seen. Wet streets reflecting neon, steam rising from subway grates, the kind of darkness that hid 1,000 sins. The financier's name was Richard Castellano. 62. Self-made billionaire. Philanthropist. His name was on hospital wings and university buildings. He donated millions to children's charities. And he'd funded Victor Hale's trafficking network for 15 years. His penthouse occupied the top floor of a building in Tribeca, 40 stories up, glass and steel and security systems that cost more than most people's houses. Dante and Elise sat in a car across the street, watching the building. He's expecting us, Dante said. How do you know? Because I sent him a message 3 hours ago, told him I had evidence linking him to Victor, gave him a chance to negotiate. And? He invited us up, said we could discuss terms. Elise's stomach tightened. It's a trap. Probably. So we're walking into it anyway? Unless you've got a better idea. She didn't. And Castellano needed to pay. Not with money or lawyers or political favors. With everything. They crossed the street, entered the building, took the elevator to the 40th floor. The doors opened onto a private foyer. Marble floors. Original artwork. A guard stood beside double doors leading into the penthouse. Weapons, he said. Dante handed over his gun. So did Elise. The guard patted them down. Thorough, professional, then opened the doors. Inside, the penthouse was exactly what Elise expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that probably cost 6 figures, everything designed to communicate power, wealth, untouchability. Richard Castellano stood by the windows, drink in hand. He was smaller than Elise expected. 5'8", maybe 5'9". Soft around the middle. Expensive suit that couldn't hide the fact he had never done a hard day's labor in his life. Mr. Voss, he said smoothly, and you must be Miss Carter. Please, sit. They sat. Castellano settled across from them, crossing his legs. So, you have evidence connecting me to Victor Hale's unfortunate enterprise. I assume you're here to negotiate a price for your silence. No, Dante said. I'm here to tell you you're finished. Castellano's smile didn't waver. I don't think so. The FBI has Victor's records. Your name's all over them. Wire transfers, email correspondence, meeting notes. You funded his entire operation. You're bluffing. If the FBI had that evidence, they'd have arrested me already. They don't have it yet. I do. And tomorrow morning, I'm giving it to them. Dante leaned forward. But tonight, I wanted to look you in the eye and tell you exactly what kind of monster you are. Monster? Castellano laughed. I'm a businessman. I saw an opportunity to invest in a profitable enterprise. If Victor chose to operate illegally, that's on him. You knew what he was doing. You funded it. You're just as guilty. Prove it. I will. In court. In front of a jury. In every newspaper and news channel in the country. Dante's voice went cold. By the time I'm done, your name will be synonymous with human trafficking. Your charities will collapse. Your friends will abandon you, and you'll spend the rest of your life in a federal prison being someone's bitch. Castellano's smile finally faded. You're making a mistake. No. You made the mistake. You thought money protected you. It doesn't. Money protects everyone. You should know that better than anyone, Mr. Voss. After all, you're just like me, a criminal who convinced himself he's legitimate. The difference, Dante said quietly, is I never pretended to be anything else. Castellano stood. I think we're done here. Not quite. Elise pulled a flash drive from her pocket, set it on the table. That's everything. Every file, every transaction, every piece of evidence that proves you funded Victor's network. I'm giving it to the FBI tomorrow. Then why show it to me tonight? Because I wanted you to know it was coming. I wanted you to spend the next 12 hours knowing your life is over and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Castellano stared at the flash drive. His face had gone pale. You can't do this, he said. Watch me. He lunged for the drive. Elise was faster, grabbed it, stepped back.
Castellano's hand went to his pocket, pulled out a small pistol. "Give it to me," he said. His hand shook. "Now." Dante stood slowly. "Put the gun down, Richard." "I said give it to me." The guard from the foyer appeared in the doorway, weapon drawn. Everything happened at once. Castellano swung his pistol toward Elise. The guard fired, hit Dante in the shoulder. Dante went down. Elise threw herself behind the couch as bullets tore through expensive upholstery. The guard advanced. Elise had no weapon, no cover, no way out. Then Vincent crashed through the terrace doors. Glass exploded inward. Vincent hit the guard center mass, both men going down in a tangle. Two more of Dante's men followed, one engaging the guard, the other covering Dante. Castellano raised his pistol again. Elise grabbed a marble sculpture from the side table and threw it. Hit him in the chest. He staggered back, firing wild. The bullet missed her by inches. She rushed him, grabbed his wrist, twisted. The gun clattered to the floor. Castellano tried to push her away. She drove her knee into his stomach. He doubled over. Elise picked up his gun, pressed it against his temple. "You funded the rape and torture of hundreds of girls," she said. Her voice was shaking. "So was the gun. You profited from their suffering, and now you're going to pay for it." "Please," Castellano gasped. "I'll give you anything, money, information, whatever you want. I want you dead." Her finger tightened on the trigger. "Elise," Dante's voice, strained with pain, "don't." "Why not? He deserves it." "Because you're not a killer. Not like this." Dante struggled to his feet, blood soaking through his shirt. "You shoot him now, you become exactly what he is. Someone who thinks they're above justice. He'll buy his way out. You know he will. Money, lawyers, connections. Then we make sure he can't." Dante moved closer. "We give the evidence to the right people, not just the FBI, the press, victim advocacy groups. We make his crimes so public he can't hide from them." Elise kept the gun pressed to Castellano's head. Her whole body trembled. She wanted to pull the trigger, wanted to end him the way he'd ended so many lives. But Dante was right. Killing Castellano wouldn't bring those girls back, wouldn't undo the damage. It would just make her a murderer. Slowly, she lowered the gun. "Vincent," she said, "call the FBI. Tell them we have a confession." "What confession?" Castellano sneered. "I haven't said—" Elise pulled out her phone, played a recording. Castellano's voice, clear and damning. "I saw an opportunity to invest in a profitable enterprise. If Victor chose to operate illegally, that's on him." His face went white. "You recorded me?" "Every word." Elise pocketed the phone. "The FBI will love this." Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Vincent helped Dante toward the elevator. "We need to go. Now." They left Castellano kneeling on his expensive floor, surrounded by broken glass and shattered illusions. The emergency room doctor dug the bullet out of Dante's shoulder without anesthesia. He didn't make a sound, just stared at the ceiling, jaw clenched, while the doctor worked. Elise sat beside him, holding his hand. She didn't remember reaching for it. But there it was. Her fingers laced through his grip almost breaking bones. "Done," the doctor said finally. "You'll need antibiotics, rest, physical therapy." "Great," Dante muttered. "I'll get right on that." The doctor left, shaking his head. Elise let go of Dante's hand. "You should have let me shoot him." "No, I shouldn't have. He deserved it." "Maybe. But you didn't deserve to carry that weight." Dante sat up slowly, wincing. "Killing someone changes you, even when they deserve it, even when it's justice. I didn't want that for you." "Too late. I'm already changed. Not that way. Not yet." He looked at her. "There's a difference between being ruthless and being broken. You're ruthless. I'm broken. Let's keep it that way." Elise's throat tightened. "You're not broken." "Yeah, I am. Have been for years. Celine just hit it. Gave me something to focus on besides the fact that I'm a monster who builds empires on blood." "You saved your sister. You stopped Victor. You're trying to take down everyone who enabled him. That's not a monster." "What is it then?" "Penance." Dante laughed, winced from the pain. "Penance requires forgiveness. I'm not looking for that." "Then what are you looking for?" He was quiet for a long time.
Then, balance. Between what I've done and what I can still do. Between the darkness and whatever light's left. You find it yet? Working on it. His phone buzzed. He checked it. His expression shifted. What? Elise asked. Detroit and Baltimore are done, both targets in custody. Vincent's team got everything we needed. And Castellano? FBI took him an hour ago. The recording sealed it. He's going away for life. Elise felt something loosen in her chest. So it's over. Yeah, it's over. They sat in silence. Outside, dawn was breaking, pale light washing over the city, turning everything soft and gold. Elise thought about Owen, about the choice she'd made, about the woman she'd become. I need to ask you something, she said. What? When this started, you said you needed insurance, someone you could trust who wasn't part of your world. Was that true? Or was it always about something else? Dante considered this. At first it was true. I needed someone Victor wouldn't suspect, someone who could move through his world without triggering alarms. And later? Later you became more than that. More how? He met her eyes. You became the person who reminded me what I was fighting for. Not territory or money or power. The people who couldn't fight for themselves. The girls in that warehouse. Celine. Even Owen. His voice went quiet. You made me remember that some things are worth more than survival. Elise's breath caught. Don't, Dante said. Don't read into it. I'm still a criminal, still dangerous, still everything you should run from. I know. Then why aren't you running? Because I'm dangerous too now, and maybe that's what we need. Two broken people trying to build something that isn't completely terrible. Dante smiled. Actually smiled. Not the cold calculation she was used to, but something genuine. You're insane, he said. Yeah, probably. His phone buzzed again. This time the smile vanished. What is it? Elise asked. Dante stared at the screen. Vincent found something in Castellano's files. What? A name. Someone who was involved with Victor's network but kept themselves completely hidden. No direct contact, no paper trail, just payments routed through so many shell companies it took our hackers 3 days to trace it. Who? Dante turned the phone toward her. On the screen was a photo, and a name that made Elise's blood turn to ice. Dr. Sarah Reyes, Owen's oncologist, the woman who'd been treating her brother for 2 years, the woman Elise had trusted with his life. No, Elise whispered, that's impossible. Vincent, sure. The payments match up. She's been on Victor's payroll since before Owen started treatment. But she saved him. She's the reason he's alive. Or she kept him sick long enough to control you through him. The words hit like bullets. Elise grabbed the phone, stared at Dr. Reyes's photo, at her kind eyes and tired smile, at the monster hiding behind them. Where is she? Elise's voice was flat, cold. Elise, where is she? Dante hesitated, then, she's still at the hospital. Vincent's watching her, waiting for orders. Elise stood. Let's go. We need to think this through. No, we don't. She turned to face him. She used my brother as a weapon, kept him sick to keep me compliant. She's the reason I'm here, the reason I made every choice that led to this moment. And what are you going to do when you find her? Elise picked up her jacket, checked the gun tucked in her waistband. Whatever it takes. She walked out. Dante followed, cradling his injured shoulder. And somewhere in Chicago, Dr. Sarah Reyes continued her rounds, completely unaware that the reckoning was coming. That the woman she'd manipulated and controlled and used as a pawn had just become a weapon. And weapons don't negotiate. They execute. The hospital was quiet this time of night. Just nurses at their stations, machines beeping, the fluorescent hum of lights that never sleep. Elise walked through the hallways like a ghost, past the nurses who waved hello, past the janitor mopping floors, past rooms full of sick children fighting battles they didn't choose. Dante stayed close behind her, Vincent and 2 others fanning out to cover exits. Dr. Reyes was in her office, 3rd floor, West Wing. Elise didn't knock, just opened the door and walked in. Dr. Reyes looked up from her desk. Smiled that same kind, tired smile Elise had trusted for 2 years. Elise, what are you doing here? Is Owen? Owen's fine. No thanks to you. The smile faltered. I don't understand. Yes, you do. Elise closed the door, locked it. You've been on Victor Hale's payroll for 3 years. You kept my brother sick. Managed his treatment just carefully enough to keep him alive, but never well enough to end the leverage. Dr. Reyes went pale. That's ridiculous. I would never. Elise pulled out her phone, showed her the financial records, the wire transfers, the emails between Reyes and Victor's people discussing patient management and controlled deterioration. Don't lie to me, Elise said quietly. Not now. Dr. Reyes stood, back toward the wall. You don't understand. They threatened me, said they'd kill my family if I didn't cooperate. When? What? When did they threaten you? Before or after you started taking their money? Silence. That's what I thought. Elise moved closer. You weren't a victim. You were a collaborator, and my brother almost died because you valued your paychecks more than his life. I'm sorry, Dr. Reyes whispered. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Elise pulled the gun. Dr. Reyes's eyes went wide. Please, please, I have children. So did the girls in Victor's network. Didn't stop you from helping him. I didn't know what he was doing with the money. You knew enough. Elise's finger tightened on the trigger. Behind her, Dante spoke. Elise, don't do this. Why not? She deserves it. Because the police are already on their way. Vincent called them. They'll arrest her. She'll go to prison. Justice will happen. That's not justice. That's bureaucracy. It's the law. The law failed those girls. Failed Owen. Failed everyone Victor touched. Elise's voice cracked. Why should I trust it now? Because if you pull that trigger, you become exactly what she is. Someone who decided their pain justified taking a life. She used my brother, and she'll pay for it. In court, in public, where everyone will know what she did. Dante moved beside her. But if you kill her now, the story becomes about you, the vigilante who murdered a doctor, Victor and Reyes and Castellano. They all disappear into the footnotes. Is that what you want? Elise's hand shook. She thought about Owen, about what he'd said. I don't want you doing bad things because of me. She thought about her mother, about promises made at graves. She thought about the woman she'd been before all this, and the woman she was becoming. Slowly, she lowered the gun. You're right, she whispered. I can't. She turned toward the door, then spun back and punched Dr. Reyes in the face. The doctor went down hard, blood streaming from her nose. That, Elise said, was for Owen. Sirens wailed outside. Police flooded the building, and as they led Dr. Reyes away in handcuffs, Elise stood in the hallway and finally let herself cry. For her brother, for the girls they'd saved, for the person she'd lost along the way. Dante appeared beside her, didn't speak, just stood there while she broke apart. When she finally ran out of tears, he said, It's over now, really over. Elise wiped her face. Is it? Victor's in prison, Castellano's arrested, Reyes is done. Everyone who enabled them is either in custody or running scared. And us? We rebuild, figure out what comes next. What does come next? Dante looked at her. That depends on what you want. Elise thought about that, about choices and consequences, and the impossible math of survival. I want my brother to live, she said. I want those girls to heal. I want to wake up one day and not feel like I'm drowning. That's a start. What about you? What do you want? Dante was quiet for a long time. Then, I want to be someone my sister doesn't have to be ashamed of. She's not ashamed of you. Not yet. They stood in the hospital hallway as dawn turned the windows gold. Two people who'd walked through hell and somehow made it out the other side. Not unscathed, not whole, but alive. And for now, that was enough. Come on, Dante said. Let's go home. Elise followed him out into the morning light. And somewhere behind them, the darkness they'd left in their wake began, slowly, painfully, to heal. But they didn't see it, because they were already moving forward, toward whatever came next. Together, home turned out to be the mansion Elise had walked away from 3 days ago, except now it felt different. Less like a prison,
more like a fortress built by people who'd learned that safety was something you created, not something you found. Margaret met them at the door, her eyes widening when she saw Dante's blood-stained shirt and the hollowness in Elise's face. "Sweet mercy," she whispered. "What happened?" "Long story," Dante said. "Is Celine awake?" "She's in the garden, been out there since sunrise." Dante nodded and headed upstairs to change. Elise stood in the foyer, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. Her legs felt like water. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Margaret guided her to a chair. "Sit before you fall down." Elise sat, stared at nothing. "When's the last time you slept?" Margaret asked. "I don't remember." "8?" Same answer. Margaret disappeared and returned with tea and toast, forced both into Elise's hands. "Eat. You're no good to anyone if you collapse." Elise ate mechanically. The food tasted like cardboard, but her body needed fuel, so she swallowed it anyway. When Dante came back down, shoulder bandaged, wearing clean clothes, he looked almost human again. Almost. "Come on," he said to Elise. "There's someone who wants to meet you." She followed him through the house and out into the gardens. Dawn had given way to full morning, sunlight filtering through trees that had probably stood here longer than any of them had been alive. Celine sat on a bench near a fountain. She looked better than she had in the penthouse. Cleaner, healthier, but still fragile. Like someone recovering from a wound that went too deep to see. She looked up as they approached. Her eyes, so much like Dante's, tracked Elise with careful assessment. "This is her?" Celine asked. Dante nodded. "Celine, this is Elise Carter. Elise, my sister Celine." Elise extended her hand. "It's good to finally meet you, really meet you." Celine took it. Her grip was stronger than Elise expected. "Dante told me what you did, what you risked. Thank you. I didn't do it alone." "No, but you didn't have to do it at all. You could have walked away. Most people would have." Celine glanced at her brother. "Most people did." Dante looked away. The guilt in his expression was stark. "He never stopped looking for you," Elise said quietly. "Every decision he made for 6 years was about finding you." "I know. He told me." Celine's voice was soft, sad. "But knowing doesn't change what happened. Doesn't erase the things I saw, the things that were done. No, it doesn't. Will it get easier, eventually?" Elise thought about the warehouse, about Kyle's body, about the gun in her hand aimed at Dr. Reyes. "I don't know," she admitted. "I hope so." Celine smiled, small and broken, but real. "That's more honest than what everyone else has been telling me." They sat together in silence. 3 people who'd walked through different versions of hell and somehow found their way back. After a while, Celine stood. "I'm going to take a walk. Alone, if that's okay." Dante tensed. I need to be alone sometimes, to remember I can be." Her voice was gentle but firm. "I'll stay on the grounds. I promise." He nodded reluctantly. Celine walked away, disappearing into the trees. Dante watched her go, something raw and unguarded on his face. "She's stronger than you think," Elise said. "She shouldn't have to be." "No, but she is. And that's what will save her." Dante turned to face Elise. "Thank you for everything. I know I've said it before, but I need you to understand what you did, what you sacrificed. I won't forget it. I didn't do it for gratitude. I know, you did it because it was right, even when it cost you everything." He paused. "That's rare, especially in my world." "Your world's different now. Victor's gone. His network's destroyed. You could walk away, build something legitimate." "Could I?" Dante's laugh was bitter. "I've been a criminal my entire adult life. I don't know how to be anything else." "Then learn. It's not that simple." "Yes, it is. You choose every day, every decision. You choose what kind of person you're going to be." Elise moved closer. "You saved your sister. You took down a trafficking ring. You protected me when you could have thrown me to the wolves. Those aren't the actions of someone beyond redemption. They're the actions of someone trying to balance a scale that will never be even." "Maybe, but trying counts for something." Dante looked at her for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. What's that? Elise asked. Something that belonged to my mother. He opened it. Inside was a ring, simple gold band with a small emerald. She gave it to Celine the night before Victor took her. Celine managed to hide it all those years. She asked me to give it to you. Elise stared at the ring. Why? Because you brought her home. Because you gave up your brother to save someone else's family. Because she thinks you're the only person who understands what it cost. I can't accept this. She'll be hurt if you don't. Elise took the box. The ring was warm from being in Dante's pocket. She slipped it onto her right hand. It fit perfectly. Tell her thank you, Elise said, and tell her I hope she finds peace. I will. Dante's phone buzzed. He checked it, and his expression darkened. Fuck. What? Vincent. He's at the warehouse district. Says there's something I need to see. Now. The warehouse looked the same as it had the night they'd rescued the girls from Victor's network. Same rusted metal, same smell of oil and decay, same sense that terrible things had happened here and the walls remembered. Vincent stood outside, smoking. He looked grim. What is it? Dante asked. Inside. You need to see for yourself. They followed him into the warehouse and stopped. The interior had been transformed, not cleaned up or repaired. Vandalized. Spray paint covered the walls, not random graffiti. Words, accusations. Murderer, trafficker. Dante Voss killed my sister Elise Carter, helped him. Photos plastered the walls. Pictures of Dante, of Elise, of the mansion, the office building, the hospital where Owen was being treated. And in the center of the floor, arranged like a grotesque shrine, were candles and flowers surrounding a single photograph. A girl, maybe 15, dark hair, scared eyes, dead. Who is she? Elise whispered. Vincent crushed his cigarette. Her name was Maria Santos, one of the girls from Victor's network. She was in the warehouse the night we raided it. Got moved to a safe house. Social services placed her with a foster family last week. And 2 days ago she killed herself, left a note saying she couldn't live with what had been done to her, that no one could save her, that she'd rather be dead than carry those memories. The words hit like bullets. Elise moved closer to the photograph, studied the girl's face, tried to remember if she'd seen her that night in the warehouse. She couldn't. There had been so many girls, all of them terrified, all of them damaged. Who did this? Dante asked, gesturing at the graffiti. Don't know. But whoever it was, they know things. Details about our operation, about what happened at Victor's estate, about Elise's involvement. Vincent's voice was tight. Someone's trying to make this public, turn us into villains. We saved those girls, Elise said. We stopped Victor. And Maria still died. So did 3 of our guys in the raid. So did Kyle. So did everyone who got in the way of our righteous crusade. Vincent's eyes were hard. Maybe whoever did this has a point. Dante's jaw clenched. Clean this up, all of it, and find out who's responsible. And then what? Then we have a conversation about the difference between justice and revenge. Vincent left. Elise stood alone with Dante in the vandalized warehouse, Maria's photo staring up at them from the floor. She's right, Elise said finally. Who? Maria, in her note. No one could save her, not really. We got her out of that warehouse, but we couldn't get the warehouse out of her. We did what we could. Did we? Or did we just make ourselves feel better by pretending rescue was the same as healing? Dante turned to face her. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we won. Maybe we took down Victor and Castellano and everyone who enabled them. But the girls are still broken. The families are still destroyed. And we're standing in a warehouse full of evidence that our victory came at a cost we didn't want to count. So what? We should have done nothing? Let Victor keep operating? No, we should have done more. Not just stop the network, actually help the survivors. Made sure they had support, real support, not just social services and thoughts and prayers. We set up a fund. A fund isn't enough. Money doesn't heal trauma. It doesn't give them back their lives. Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, made a call. Margaret, I need you to set up a meeting. Everyone involved in the victim's fund.
Therapists, social workers, anyone who works with trafficking survivors. He paused. Because we're changing how we do this. Not just money, real resources, housing, education, whatever they need for as long as they need it. He hung up and looked at Elise. Better? It's a start. You're never satisfied, are you? Not until the job's actually done. Something shifted in Dante's expression. Respect, maybe, or recognition. You're going to be trouble, he said. You have no idea. 3 weeks later, Elise stood in a community center on the south side. The building was old but clean, windows letting in afternoon light that made everything look almost hopeful. 15 girls sat in a circle, ages ranging from 14 to 23, all survivors of Victor's network, all trying to figure out how to live with what had happened to them. A therapist led the group. Elise sat in the back, observing. This was the third center they'd opened. There would be more, as many as it took. After the session ended, one of the girls approached Elise, young, maybe 16. She'd been in the Gary warehouse the night of the raid. You're the one who was there, the girl said, when they rescued us. I was there. Everyone says you're the reason we got out, that you convinced him to come for us. Elise shook her head. He would have come anyway. I just helped. Still, thank you. The girl hesitated. Is it true what they're saying? That the man who saved us is also a criminal? Yes. And you work for him? Yes. The girl processed this. That's fucked up. Yeah, it is. But you're here now, helping, trying to. Why? Elise thought about Maria, about the photograph in the warehouse, about all the girls who'd been saved but not healed. Because getting you out was only the first step, making sure you survive what comes next. That's the real work. The girl nodded slowly. Can I ask you something? Sure. Does it get better, eventually? It was the same question Celine had asked, the same question Elise had been asking herself for weeks. I don't know, she admitted, but I think if we keep choosing to live, really live, not just survive, it has to. Otherwise they win. The people who hurt us. And I refuse to let them win. The girl's eyes filled with tears. Me too. She walked away. Elise stood alone in the community center, surrounded by evidence of damage and healing happening simultaneously. Her phone buzzed, a text from Dante. How'd it go? Hard. Good. Both. Come home. There's something we need to discuss. Elise pocketed her phone and headed for the door. The mansion felt different every time she returned. Less like Dante's domain and more like something they were building together. A place that held darkness and light in equal measure. She found him in the study with Vincent and 3 other men she didn't recognize. They all looked up when she entered. Gentlemen, Dante said, this is Elise Carter. Elise, meet Chicago's new task force on human trafficking. Federal, local, state. All coordinating for the first time in history. One of the men stepped forward. Agent Martinez, FBI. We wanted to thank you personally for the evidence you provided on the Castellano case. It's already led to 14 additional arrests. I'm glad it helped. More than helped. You broke open a network we'd been trying to infiltrate for years. Martinez glanced at Dante. And despite Mr. Voss's complicated history, we're here to discuss potential cooperation moving forward. Elise raised an eyebrow. Cooperation? Mr. Voss has offered to use his resources and contacts to help identify trafficking networks operating in the Midwest. In exchange, we're willing to overlook certain past activities and provide immunity for any information he shares. You're making him a confidential informant. We're making him an asset. There's a difference. Dante's expression was unreadable. I told them I'd only do it if you agreed. Why? Because you're the reason I'm doing it at all. And because if this is going to work, I need someone making sure I don't cross lines I can't come back from. Elise looked at the agents, at Vincent, at Dante. What lines? She asked. We're not asking Mr. Voss to commit crimes, Martinez said, just to share intelligence, names, locations, patterns he recognizes from his time in adjacent industries. And if he does commit crimes, then the deal's off and he goes to prison. Simple as that.
Elise turned to Dante. You're serious about this? Victor's network wasn't the only one. There are others, smaller, smarter, and they're still operating. His voice was quiet. I spent 6 years looking for Celine. Found her. But there are thousands of other Celines still out there. If I can help find them, if I can use everything I know about how these networks operate to tear them apart, then maybe the scale starts to balance. Or maybe you get yourself killed. That's a possibility. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with trying to be something other than what I've been. Elise studied his face, saw the exhaustion there, the weight of choices that had carved him down to bare bone and will. She turned to Martinez. I have conditions. Such as? Complete transparency. I see every piece of intel Dante provides. I verify it. If I think he's crossing a line, I pull him out. No arguments. And if we disagree with your assessment, then the deal's off and you lose your asset. Martinez looked at his colleagues. Some silent communication passed between them. Agreed, he said finally. They spent the next hour going over details. Protocols. Chain of command. What constituted acceptable intelligence gathering versus entrapment. When the agents finally left, Vincent following them out, Elise and Dante were alone. You didn't have to do that, he said. Yes, I did. Someone needs to make sure you don't get yourself killed trying to be a hero. I'm not a hero. No, but you're trying, and that's more than most people do. Dante moved to the window, looked out over the grounds where Celine was walking with Margaret, the two of them talking quietly. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. Be legitimate. Work with the FBI. Pretend I'm anything other than a criminal playing at redemption. Then don't pretend. Be exactly what you are. Someone who did terrible things and is trying to do better. No one's asking for perfection. What are they asking for? Effort, honesty, a willingness to keep choosing the harder right over the easier wrong. Elise joined him at the window. You saved your sister. That was personal. Now you're choosing to save people you don't know, people who can't give you anything in return. That's different. That's growth. Or stupidity. Maybe both. Dante smiled. Actually smiled. Not the cold calculation she'd first known, but something warm and real. You're good at this, he said. At what? Making me believe I'm not completely broken. You're not. Just damaged. There's a difference. Is there? Yeah. Broken things can't be fixed. Damaged things can heal if you give them time and space and the right conditions. And what are the right conditions for someone like me? Elise considered this. Probably someone who isn't afraid to call you on your bullshit, who sees what you've done and still thinks you're worth saving, who's been through their own version of hell and came out the other side knowing that survival's a choice you make every day. Someone like you. Someone like me. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implications neither of them was quite ready to examine. Dante turned to face her fully. What do you want, Elise? Really want. Not for Owen. Not for the girls in those centers. For you. No one had asked her that in so long she'd forgotten how to answer. She thought about it. Really thought. I want to wake up and not feel like I'm drowning, she said finally. I want Owen to be healthy and happy and free from all of this. I want those girls to heal. And I want to believe that what we did, all the terrible choices and impossible costs, actually meant something. It did. How do you know? Because we're standing here. Because Celine's alive. Because there are girls in those centers who wouldn't be there without us. Because even one life saved is worth whatever it cost. Is it? Maria didn't think so. Dante's expression darkened. Maria was failed by a system that didn't know how to help her. That's not on us. Isn't it? We broke her out of that warehouse and then handed her off to strangers. Told ourselves we'd done enough. But we hadn't. We just shifted responsibility. So what should we have done? Adopted 15 traumatized girls and played house? No. But we should have followed through. Made sure they had real support. Not just assumed social services would handle it. That's why we're building the centers now. Too late for Maria. Yes. But not too late for the others. Dante's voice was quiet, intense. We can't save everyone. We can't undo the past. All we can do is try to be better going forward. And if that's not enough for you, if you need some guarantee that every choice we make will have a happy ending, then you're going to be disappointed. Because this world doesn't work that way.
Elise knew he was right, hated that he was right.
I'm tired, she said. I'm so tired of choices that have no good answers, of victories that taste like defeat, of trying to be better while knowing I'm still complicit in terrible things. Then stop. Stop what? Trying to be perfect. Accept that you're human, that you'll make mistakes, that sometimes the best you can do is choose the option that causes the least harm and live with the consequences. That's a depressing philosophy. It's a realistic one. Elise sank into a chair. Let the exhaustion finally catch up. I don't know if I can keep doing this. Then don't. Walk away. Take the money. Start over somewhere else. No one will blame you. Owen, we'll be fine. The trust is set up. His treatment continues regardless of whether you're here. And you? I'll survive. I always do. It was the easy answer, the escape hatch. Everything she'd thought she wanted 3 weeks ago. But something had changed. She'd changed. No, Elise said. No what? No, I'm not leaving. Not yet. Not until we finish what we started. Which is? Making sure those centers actually work. Making sure the girls have what they need. Making sure your cooperation with the FBI actually saves lives instead of just making you feel better about your past. Dante's expression shifted. You're staying because you don't trust me to follow through. I'm staying because someone needs to, and it might as well be someone who knows exactly what you're capable of. That sounds like a terrible reason. Yeah, it does. Elise stood. But it's the truth, and you said you valued honesty. I do. Then be honest with me. Why do you want me to stay? Really? Dante was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw. Because you're the only person who looks at me and sees potential instead of damage. Because you make me want to be better than I am. Because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to be human instead of just functional. He met her eyes. And because I'm terrified that if you leave, I'll slip back into being the person I was before. The one who valued control over connection, power over people, survival over living. The admission hung between them like a confession. Elise crossed the space between them, stood close enough to see the shadows under his eyes, the scars on his hands, the exhaustion etched into every line of his face. I'll stay, she said, but not because you need me to, because I choose to. What's the difference? Need is desperate. Choice is deliberate. Need makes me a crutch. Choice makes me a partner. And which one do you want to be? The one who calls you on your bullshit and makes you be better. The one who reminds you that redemption isn't a destination, it's a direction. The one who stays even when it's hard because that's when it matters most. Dante's hand came up, hesitated, then settled against her cheek. You're sure about this? No, but I'm choosing it anyway. He smiled. That's the most honest thing anyone's ever said to me. Get used to it. If we're doing this, really doing this, honesty's the baseline. No more games, no more manipulation, no more using each other's vulnerabilities as leverage. Just two damaged people trying to build something that doesn't completely fall apart. Exactly. Dante leaned forward, stopped an inch from her lips. Last chance to run. I'm done running. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle, wasn't romantic in any traditional sense. It was raw and desperate and tasted like blood and survival. And the kind of understanding that only comes from walking through hell together. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Elise said, that can't happen again. Why not? Because if we're going to work together, really work together, we can't let this complicate things. You think a kiss is going to complicate things more than everything else we've been through? Yes, because everything else was survival. This is choice, and choice makes things messy. Dante studied her face, then nodded. Okay, professional boundaries, we can do that. Can we? Probably not, but we can try. Elise laughed despite everything. You're impossible. And you're stuck with me. Apparently. Whack. 6 months later. The community centers had expanded to 5 locations across Chicago. 73 girls in the program, 61 still actively participating. 12 had dropped out, not because the program failed, but because they'd moved on, found jobs, enrolled in school, started building lives that didn't revolve around trauma. It wasn't perfect. Maria's death still haunted them. 2 other girls had attempted suicide. 1 succeeded.
But the majority were surviving, some were even thriving. Dante's cooperation with the FBI had led to the dismantling of 3 additional trafficking networks, 47 arrests, hundreds of victims recovered. He'd also been shot twice, stabbed once, and nearly killed in a car bombing, but he was still alive, still fighting. Celine had moved to California, found a therapist who specialized in long-term trauma, started taking classes at a community college. She called Dante every Sunday without fail. Owen had finished his treatment. The cancer was in remission. He'd started his junior year of high school and was talking about college. He still didn't know the full truth about where the money came from. Elise wasn't sure when or